Kia ora and welcome back everybody to this epic Aotearoa Create a Better Future podcast, and in particularly this special series, In the Service of Others, Who Dares Wins. I have the great privilege of sitting here with a long-time friend. It's been a long time since I've caught up with him, Mr. Kane Middleton. Without going into too much detail, Kane is a former member of the New Zealand Special Air Service, having served just over 6 years within the unit itself, all up just over 20 years in the New Zealand Defence Force, all up, some time in 2nd, 1st Battalion, a lot of that, majority of the time in 1st Battalion, time being based in Singapore. And it's great to catch up with you, man. It's great to reconnect and to sit here in your store, the owner, founder, director of Outrider.
Outrider Motorcycles, yeah.
Outrider Motorcycles, and we're going to talk about that as well. Mate, it's such a privilege. Thank you very much for making time for me, man, and sitting down today.
No, thank you, Joe. Kia ora. It's awesome to catch up with you again.
Yeah.
And to sort of see your journey so far. I'm privileged that you invited me along.
Oh, man.
To have a chat with you, bro.
Yeah, very privileged to have you on here. So, man, I guess we're going to dive straight into it, sort of similar. And actually, probably part of this podcast, I'll read out. There's been some messages from some people, not necessarily those that have served in the unit, but people that haven't. They've really felt some real sincerity come through in the messages. I know that they're going to get that from you. They've felt that from Bill Bestick, who we both know, who shared some of his stuff, and it's been really powerful for them. And so the intent is, I had a privilege to catch up with you and speak a little bit about it, is we want to hear from your experiences and then look to you describe and explain and talk about those in whatever way you see fit. And then it's for me and for the audience to then take and digest that and look to utilize it in ways that will hopefully be a positive influence and impact on them. Learn from some of our mistakes along the way. But I guess I want to start with, we'll come back to Singapore, we'll talk about 2nd, 1st and battalion life, but I want to know what drove Kane Middleton to want to join the SAS.
Oh, look, Joe, it goes right back to my first time in 2nd, 1st Battalion. I was pretty naive when I joined the army, the machine. You know, people don't believe me, but I didn't even know that you got paid.
Really?
You joined the army. I thought they fed you, they gave you a bed and a uniform, and they looked after you, and it was all good. You know.
Wow.
So and then they gave us paychecks. I was going, oh, this is good. This is great. This is awesome. But my introduction to the SAS really came in the form of my first platoon sergeant at the time, and he was one of those guys that just instilled confidence and just was so quietly unassuming, professional. Yep. And I just went, man, that guy's got it going on. He's good. He's really good. And I talked to him then about it, and he gave me the advice: no, don't do it. Don't do it. He said, go to Singapore, do some time in Singapore, because that'll give you good grounding, grow your maturity, grow your skills.
How old were you at that time when you spoke with him about it? And
I was 18 and a half.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So I was very young, very keen, thought I could take on the world. Let's go, I haven't got time to muck around. I want to do this yesterday. You know, I can't be bothered mucking around. I want to do this now. And he gave me that advice, and I took that advice. You know, I was trying to prepare for selection at the time. I was walking around the Rolleston prison, which was just a flat, boring walk with a pack on. And, you know, I remember listening to Big Country on my headphones. Back in those days, it was
the Walkman. With the tape, cassette
tapes.
tapes.
And the battery would run out halfway, and I'd go, oh man, I'm only halfway. But I would do it, and I was quite driven. I was quite driven. But I look back on that, and I wouldn't have been ready. I wasn't ready, because what really cemented that to me was when I got to Singapore, just how unready I was for that. Not only as a soldier, but as a young man, just wasn't ready for that at all. So that was what really got me into and attracted to the idea of I looked and everybody else who had the upside down wings, I was going, they're all very similar. They're all a similar type of person. They've all got something about them. I didn't know what it was. I was going, they're all very just what they are, and it inspired me, you know, and so it sort of just set me up right from the very, very start that's something that I wanted to do.
Awesome.
And I didn't quite know how long it was going to take to get there, but I got there.
Yeah. 100%. Man, that's awesome. That's such a cool story. So what about, just rewinding a little bit before we delve into selection, what was the catalyst for you to join the army in the first place? It's dodging the law?
Oh, no. I was a good lad, Joe. No, look, what happened was I was very fortunate to grow up in rural sort of Canterbury inland from Christchurch,
Right.
in the foothills of the Southern Alps, and I had a magical childhood.
I bet.
You know, and it was really it was an exciting childhood. And my parents, they had decided to make the move from where we were in rural Canterbury into the city of Christchurch.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go to Christchurch. It was the least attractive thing to me of all. So I said, look, I don't want to go to Christchurch. So I ended up, my dad got me a job on a station that I grew up on as a young kid.
Yeah.
Which was just like, wow, this is too good to be true. It's awesome. So I was sort of by myself, although I had everything laid on for me, that sort of stuff. And I was getting paid, and it was all good. Yeah. But then I discovered girls, you see, so girls started to become a little bit more interesting. And I thought, there's only a set amount of girls out where I grew up. And my first real dating experience out there was a total disaster.
Right.
So I sort of, oh God. So I started to go into Christchurch a little bit more.
Yeah.
And more and more. And then I sort of made the decision, I think I want to go live in Christchurch now. So I did sort of moved into Christchurch. But in order to do that, I obviously had a job. So I ended up, my auntie got me a job at, it was a place called Rattrais, which was a wholesale food place.
Yeah,
and I was driving a forklift. So it was pretty crazy. It was pretty good. Good job. But it became repetitive. Like every week we would be doing a task that was the same, whether it was so every Thursday or Wednesday, whatever it was, I can't remember the exact day, we would pack a 20-foot sea can to go to Chatham Islands.
Yeah, right.
Then every Tuesday we would receive a 20-foot container of 25 kg bags of rice that we had to unpack out of the container by hand, stack onto a pallet.
And then,
I was working there for probably 8 or 9 months.
Right.
And sorry, just going back one step,
I
did try to join the Army Cadets, the Regular Force Cadets, when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I didn't make it through that because my birthday unfortunately just fell right in the middle
outside
of the year.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I was too young one year and I was too old the next year.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
That's the excuse they gave me. They probably just didn't want me to play out. But I got through the national selection. So as a young kid, that was quite heartbreaking as a young kid. So that was it. I moved on. So going back to Christchurch, working in the warehouse, I must have been there for about 8 months.
Yeah.
And life was good. It was all good. But I was unloading the same container of rice. I remember it. Same container, and all I could see up the front of the container was like rice bags.
Yeah.
25 k. Dun. And I sort of stopped and I went, there's got to be more to life than this. There's got to be more to life than doing this every week.
Yeah.
I couldn't see how I was going to do much different. I mean, there wasn't a huge promotion regime within the organisation. I didn't really have much ambition then about anything.
Yeah.
Didn't want to go to university or anything like that. So I jumped on my motorbike at lunchtime and I rode down to King Edward Barracks, which was about 3 or 4 minute ride on the bike. Walked in and the recruiter looked at me and goes, I was wondering when I'd see you back.
Is that right?
And I went, oh, cool. And basically he signed me up on the spot. So
wow.
Here's all the paperwork, fill this out, bring it back. We'll just do some medical checks and all that sort of stuff and we'll be good to go. So I was due to go off to Waiouru in June or July. But I was racing motorcycles at the time and I smashed my ankle up. And I didn't end up going up until September.
Right.
So I did my basic in September 1985.
1985. What was that basic number?
212.
212.
I still remember some grumpy staff sergeant. I can't remember what his name was. I was walking down. I didn't have my beret on, and he stopped me and he goes, "Soldier, private, whatever." He said, "Where's your beret?" I go, "Oh, I'm not sure." It's back in my room. And he goes, "What basic are you on?" And I think I said. I said it wrong anyway. There was some numbering system. It's like 212 or 212, but I said it the wrong way.
Yeah.
And he barked at me. Whoa, I went, far out. So, you know, so yeah, 212, 212, whichever it was. You know, and I watch with interest now the numbers they're up to.
Yeah,
it's interesting, you know, like,
it is, eh?
It's crazy.
Far out. That's so cool. And the pieces that you've described there with your journey and that aspect, that almost like an epiphany moment, like there's got to be more to life than this, right? And I love how you've talked about that. I want to fast forward to selection, because you and I were on the same one and same cycle. And I only always remember you as Sergeant Middleton or Mids, once I got to know you on the cycle. And why? Because by that time you're a sergeant. You've done a good, 12 years?
Yeah, it was 13
13 years, by that stage. And then you've gone for, and you weren't the only sergeant. There's another, I won't mention his full name, but was it Voltron was his thing? And he's still in now?
Yes.
And so we were on the same selection and that sort of stuff. What, from your time with the advice that you got when you're a young 18-year-old, then going to Singapore, then coming back, was there something that happened why you didn't jump on the selection straight away, or as sooner rather than, or were you just in a good space at that time?
Oh, I did.
Oh, you did.
So I put my nomination in for selection in '89.
Oh, right.
When we
Yeah.
got back from Singapore.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But again, I'd stuffed up something. I think we're doing drill and parade.
Right. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was fluffing around, and I fluffed around. I had a UD on my and I was on CB.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Which was the military punishment for being a bad lad, bringing the reputation of the military forces into disrepute. So I was doing my penance and doing CB.
Okay.
And I think I got 21 days or something. I was real bad at it. I got 21 days CB, and that sort of fell on the period of selection. So I was supposed to deploy to Papakura back then.
Yeah.
Papakura,
Yeah.
on about after the first week.
Yep.
And I sort of thought, oh, well, I won't have to do any
CB.
CB because I'll be on selection. And I was going, oh man, are they still going to let me go? And
Yeah.
so my headspace at that time was just nowhere near where it was supposed to be.
Gotcha.
I just come back from Singapore. We're still getting used to living back in New Zealand. This was November, December. We'd got back in September, 89. And there was a lot of good guys who went up on that selection, and some of them are still there.
Yeah.
And they're all been lifelong associates and friends.
Yeah.
And they made it through, but I was a lemon. I was just no good. Wasn't in the zone.
Yeah.
So I understand fully when I hear if people go, oh, I'm just not in the zone. I know
relate
exactly
to that,
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I can relate to that. So I came off selection on day 2 or something. I said, oh, this is just not happening for me. It's sort of like if I can compare it to my business now, you're just not firing on all cylinders. It's up here, it just wasn't working at all. Yeah. So I withdrew myself and I went back to CB. Straight flew back. Got back to Palmerston North, back on CB.
Well, they say you still got 18 days left. Yeah, you can.
I said I should have stayed on CB. So on selection.
Yeah.
Would have been better. Wouldn't have been trying to find a sock or whatever. But yeah, and I was pretty disappointed at the time. But I'd also met who was to become my wife at the time. So there was all these combining things that I just knew I wasn't in the headspace for it.
Yeah.
So I pulled myself off and I came back to the battalion. So that was in '89. Yeah. And it took me close to 10 years to actually execute Plan A from 1985.
Awesome.
86.
Yeah.
So so that was sort of how my first real attempt went. Of putting myself forward to do it.
Awesome.
And I suppose I was pretty disappointed in myself as well. Overall about it. And I sort of made a subconscious decision to let's make this infantry thing, make it work. I'd been in Singapore having a ball, having training, real brilliant training. Yeah. And I sort of thought, let's give this infantry thing a go then. Let's do it. Let's go hard. Yeah. And focus on that.
Awesome. Man, that's so cool. And it's great to hear that because I know a lot of people resonate with that. There's a couple of things that jump out to me as you speak about that. One is just having the courage to put the nomination in, because that's a huge step for people just in and of itself to do that. People and ah, people go, yeah, I'm going to do it, and then for whatever reason they stop themselves or they allow noise from outside. Yeah,
they find an excuse, and it's just a confidence thing.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
100%. And so that's great that happened. And then speaking about that, so sorry, CB is confined to barracks for those that don't know. So
all the bad guys do it.
Yeah, all the bad people get to do it. So when they misbehave or they do something, and you don't a lot of times. So it's quite funny. A lot of times you don't even need to have done much, right?
It's just dust on your jaw.
Yeah, dust on your jaw. You got some fluff on your shirt. There's a thread hanging down. I got threads everywhere on me at the moment. But those aspects, and I guess that part of the humour is a great thing. Yeah. Fast forwarding to selection, because man, I really enjoyed it. I loved the whole experience. What was it like for you? Your let's say your proper attempt now. You're in a good headspace, obviously. You're a mature senior soldier, got a lot of experience. You're on there. What was the whole thing like for you? What was it good? Was it bad? Was it what you thought? Was it not what you thought?
It's exactly what I thought it was going to be. It was. I'd done a lot of promotional courses and training courses over my time.
Yeah.
And I expected selection to be extremely difficult. I knew it was going to be extremely difficult. I knew there were going to be times when I'd have self-doubt and I'd be in pain and hurting. But the top 6 inches had been, I'd set myself that goal in my head, and that was it. There was nothing else. There was nothing else that was going to step in the way or stop, barring injury.
Yeah.
And the maturity thing had a lot to do with it, I suppose, because, you know, God, I saw guys on the RFLs running off and doing an 8-minute RFL and going, man,
it's day one, bro.
In the tank, man. You've got to keep some petrol because it's going to run out at some stage.
Yeah.
You know, that petrol's going to run out because you've got another 9-10 days or whatever to get through yet, and they might make us do 2 more RFLs today, we don't know. And so that sort of helped. But yeah, that selection was what I expected. It was
nice.
Challenging.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the mental challenge of it.
Right.
Of the not knowing of the far out. When's this going to stop? When's this? What's that? What are they going to throw at us next? And I sort of that was an aspect that I enjoyed of the selection course. Not just the physical side of it.
Nice. Yeah.
If you asked me to do the selection course again, I'd quietly decline and say no thanks.
No, thank you.
Because it was hard.
Yeah.
There's no two ways. It's hard. It's 100%. Physically hard. It's mentally and emotionally hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard emotionally because you've got all sorts of things going through your head. Friends, family, not letting yourself down, not letting them down.
Not letting the unit down.
Not letting your unit down. Not wanting to make sure that the selection staff are seeing you. Then you've got all the professionalism challenges, your navigation, carrying your weapon properly, making sure you're not jumping fences.
Buttons are done up, clips are done up.
So you've got pressure on all angles.
Yeah.
And that's what I enjoyed was that pressure, was that
awesome.
Someone's watching me every second of the day. You know, I was even thinking the camera's watching me. But I was prepared for that because I'd really psyched myself up to the fact that it's going to be hard.
Yep.
But you can do it. People have done it before.
Yeah.
And people will do it again. It's up to me, not anybody else. It's up to me to dig down here and pull everything out and just keep going, no matter what.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Man, you did that too. I'm interested, when you spoke there, one thing jumped out at me. How did you find it? Because our selection in 98, on that particular time around October, November-ish, whenever it was we had the media. 60 Minutes came there and we were filming it. And I think it might have been one of the very first times, potentially, when the unit had sort of opened its doors a bit and allowed a bit of a glimpse into it. How did you find... What were your thoughts on that in terms of having the media there? And also, how did you find trying to play the grey man role? And even if you could speak to that, you know, there's this little bit of the term that gets bent around, the grey man. You don't want to stand right out, and you don't want to be... So you don't want to stand out right at the top end of the spectrum or at the end. You want to sort of merge in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I to be quite honest, I didn't really understand about what the media were doing.
Yeah.
I knew that they were there. I was ambivalent. I didn't really care either way about it. I was there to finish selection and be selected for further training, and that was my goal. So I didn't really have a why the media here, or oh wow, I'm on camera sort of thing at all. I think you mentioned before that some people were selected to be like case models. And I don't ever remember being asked, or I don't remember putting my hand up for that. I just, like you say, I just wanted to be there. Yeah. Because I also felt a little bit I had a target on my back being a senior NCO. That
I was going to ask about how
if I made a mistake, then I felt it was going to be amplified, because the people, the guys that I was trying to be there with, would look at me and say, he's supposed to be a senior NCO. He's supposed to know what he's doing. He's making silly mistakes. He's making silly navigation errors. He's not even carrying his weapon properly. So I felt not pressure. I just felt the microscope was sort of watching a little bit closer than probably what it was. It probably wasn't. They probably just didn't care. I don't know. I never asked.
You didn't ask?
No, I never asked because I was proud and privileged to be accepted. So I was like, let's do this. But I just felt that. But to answer your question, I wasn't really fussed too much about the whole media following us and watching us go around. I think I saw them 3 times. Yeah, right. Overall, I think I saw them 2 or 3 times. And one of those was on the 60K, and that was only because I nearly fell over them. Because I was just stumbling along.
Funny you mention that. I don't remember seeing them at all on the 60 clicker. For me, I vividly can remember bits and pieces when you're up in the compound at times and they're sort of scanning the thing across. But one of the things that stuck out for me was that I'm pretty sure from memory, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they asked for 5 volunteers. They got 4. There were 4 people that I remember volunteered. There wasn't anybody else, and poor old top man from Battalion Voltron, who I mentioned, I think he was nominated that he had to go, and out of all of those 5, only he got through. Only he got through to the end, and I felt gutted for him, because then obviously the video come out and it shows that piece where he's standing in front. We're hoping to be selected for further training, as you mentioned, and he wasn't. And man, I didn't know him very well at all. Like he was just another senior soldier, sergeant and stuff in battalion. But I felt for him, and to know that might have been his second time. Was that his second time then?
I can't recall.
Something. Sure. Anyway, he's gone back. He's there now. He's done it again, and that's awesome. Like just the mindset that you've spoken about, his top 6 inches, to have that desire and the drive to want to go back there, because it is, I echo what you're saying, it's definitely not easy. What did you find the hardest? What was the hardest aspect for you specifically, or what was one stage that maybe shocked you a bit more, or that you didn't expect it to feel as bad or as hard?
I think the close country phase was the hardest for me.
Actually, can you talk about that, particularly around the map that you were given?
Yeah, so I didn't, they could have, there was a series of unfortunate events on the close country for me. Because I remember the drill was, they gave you, the first time you get something nice to eat was just before the close country. Because they sort of thought, if we don't give these poor buggers something to eat, they're going to die. So we better feed them some scraps. So I remember it was quite cruel, but it was very clever that after we finished the dunes, the endurance and the dunes, they sat us down, said, right, basically rest up. And I think, man, we must have been asleep for like 2 minutes. And it's like, crack, let's get up, get on the truck, hurry up. And get on the truck. Then they take you into the forest, and you get off the forest, and then this Land Rover turns up with these little, I was like, oh man, heaven. But then you get back on the truck, okay, hurry up, finish up eating, let's get back on the truck. And as you said earlier, there's no yelling, there's no screaming. If you want to be there, then you prove to us you want to be there. You don't have to, you can stay there if you want. I don't care. You want to be here, you get on the truck. So you get on the truck, and then it sort of is a time thing. So they basically just stop the truck, and they yell out your number or your name, whatever it was, I can't remember. Get off the truck, and then they give you a brief, and you're on your own. And it's the first time for the previous, it's probably the first time,
aside from probably the open country,
that you've actually been by yourself again. And you're in your own head, and you're in your own thoughts, and you've just had a bit of warm food, and it's like you're going, man, I've still got 3 or 4 days to go here. Far out, I'm getting close, but I'm still not there. Can I, not can I do it, but it's like, So for me, close country navigation wasn't a new thing, but I was struggling like crazy because nothing was marrying up to my map.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Roads weren't there. There was track junctions not there. The terrain was like real weird, and I'm going, and I was pacing accurately, and I was going. So I was on my bearing and pacing, and I was looking around, and I was saying, "You get caught on the track. We're going to take you back." And I was going, "There's tracks every freaking where, but on my map there's nothing." So I just kept going. I just kept battling along, and I think I ended up getting on the radio, calling up, going, "I have been walking around for like an hour, and I can't find this first checkpoint.
It's not where it's supposed to be.
It's not where it's supposed to be on my map. I can't find it at all." And I was going, far out. This is it for me. I'm tucker.
Yeah.
I can't even navigate my first checkpoint. Anyway, to cut a long story short, what it was the map that I was issued was a very old map. So a lot of the roading that was in the forest at the time wasn't reflected
showing
on my map. So I was actually walking further.
Yeah, right.
To try and get to these magic junctions because there was a road every 200 meters.
Yeah, there were a lot of tracks.
But on my map there was like one every 2 kilometers. I was going, oh, fuck, what am I doing here? And your brain's muzzy and huzzy and fuzzy, and you go. So that for me was really quite emotionally challenging.
Yeah.
That I was going, come on, man, get a grip. And the second thing that happened on the first day was I was the first into one of the checkpoints.
Yep.
And I don't know if I was. I felt like I was, but I turned up to the checkpoint, and the directing staff said, "Okay, show me here's your next checkpoint. Grab some water."
Yeah.
And so of course we'd just been doing the sand dunes the night before, and what the DS would do is, because the common trick was to you're carrying 20 kg jerry cans.
Jerry cans, yeah.
That's pretty heavy, and you got sand in your fingers, and it's like sandpaper.
Yep. Your pack, your webbing, your weapon.
And your hands are just like sandpaper, and you're sweating, and you're getting hot and cold, and it's actually really, really uncomfortable. And then you're carrying 2 of these damn things, and it's really, really twice as uncomfortable. So what a lot of guys would try and do is tip a little bit of water, like 100 ml would make all the difference. You know, like I can make it if I can get 100 ml. So the DS were one step ahead of us, and they put petrol in the jerry cans, you see. And so they'd go, hey, right, stop.
Yeah.
Who the hell tipped that out? And we all go, no one did. Someone, this must be spilling. I don't know who it was.
Oh, we lost the lid.
Yeah, the lids fell and fallen out. So the DS had like pockets full of lids, and it was hilarious. It was like, not at the time it wasn't but it was like, it was a game of cat and mouse.
Yeah, it was. Hey?
It was who can try and outsmart who here. Oh, they got container lids. Damn, that's a stupid. But then you'd get a punishment, you see. Yeah. Because someone had tried to cheat the system. Yeah. And you don't cheat the system. You push the boundaries, but you don't cheat the system. We've got a system. So then what had happened is on the close country phase the next day, obviously they chucked all the jerry cans onto the truck, and they were delivering the water out to all of the checkpoints. Well, I got to a checkpoint, and I went to fill up my water bottle, and I filled up my water bottle, and then I started to fill up my second one, and I thought I'd have a quick drink, and it was all I could taste was petrol. I splurted out, and I sort of went, oh, far out, this is not good. And I thought, nah, it's all part of the test. They're just testing us. They're just testing us to see if we'll complain or moan by having some contaminated water or whatever. So I just carried on, trucked along.
I'm not complaining.
I'm not going to complain because my name will be mud, so I just kept on trucking. And it wasn't until the next day, I think it was, or might have even been 2 days, I can't remember, at the start of the 60 clicker, that they do a kit inspection. And I remember, I think he might have been the senior training warrant officer at the time, just smelt it, and he went, how long have you had this? I said, 2 days. And he just shook his head, and he swapped it out for a new one, because I thought it was just a part of the test.
Part of the test, yeah.
So to answer your question, I think for me, the moment that I sort of struggled with was, again, being alone. Yeah. After being around all the guys again. So being alone in the open country, all that sort of stuff, then being thrown back together again, and you got your mates to sort of suck that energy off to keep going, and you keep each other going just by being together, to then being alone again, totally isolated on your own, and you're told if you get caught on a track and you're not allowed to walk with anybody else.
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
course, there's tracks everywhere, man. It's like
And you bumped into each other?
you can't not go on a track, right? There's just the whole place is just logging tracks and
Yeah.
stuff. So that was I found that quite challenging.
Yeah, nice.
To be alone again, and that
Yeah.
night, I think you spend the night by yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you're allowed to eat the ration pack that night or something.
I don't know if it was that night. I remember we got to eat the ration pack on the 60 clicker.
Yeah,
And we had a hot box the night before.
Yeah, but I remember that night being by myself.
Yeah,
It's like it's a real test. I think that was probably the most testing time I found anyway.
Awesome. Great points, man. You bring up some memories there because did you ever get busted and caught and put on the road and driven back 3Ks?
No, I was too good for that, mate.
Oh, man.
No, I got chased. I got chased and I thought I was running it like the Bionic Man.
Yeah. Like smoking them, eh?
Yeah, and I know the boys. I know these guys who were chasing me and I was going, no, you're not going to catch me. And I must have been like 1, 2,
Slow
3,
motion.
4. And they were just laughing at me. And I was going, get out, you're not taking me. So I didn't get caught, no.
Oh, man. You're good, you're right. Yeah, I got busted. I got caught, put on the rover, driven back. I might have got caught a couple of times, actually. But one of the things that stuck out for me on that process, because you just jogged my memory, getting to my first checkpoint, I don't think you mind if I mention his name. He's the SMA of the army and stuff at the moment. But Moo was on my first checkpoint. And it wasn't until, because it's interesting that you mentioned that part and the mental aspect and being on your own. I got there, reported in, gave me my next grid reference bureau and told me to go work it out. I was working it out. And then he come over and offered me a biscuit. I was starving. Gave me one of those biscuits from the Rat Pack. I didn't even think till after. I said, he goes, do you want a biscuit? I was like, yes, staff. And I wasn't even thinking like, is this a test? And he goes, here. And then I grabbed it, munched it. Then after I ate it, I was thinking, damn, was I supposed to eat that? It just played havoc with me mentally for the rest of that close country Navex. I was thinking, was I supposed to eat that? Oh man, I'm going to get kicked off now. I'm going to have to come back and do selection.
Ended by a biscuit.
Yeah, ended by a biscuit because you ate a biscuit. And I was like, no. And then by the time we got to the end of the 60 clicker, I was just exhausted. I didn't care. Yeah, it was like, that's gone.
It was a biscuit that got you through.
Yeah, I think so. Did you have any... I really found interesting, and I took a lot away from what Bill mentioned about. Did you feel like it gave you a boost when people would pull off the selection at different stages?
I think it does. I think it empowers you to go,
I'm still here.
I'm still doing this. I actually had stages of not second guessing myself, but going, wow, I just finished the open country phase.
Yeah.
That's a major milestone in my head. I went, wow, I'm
That's
still here.
huge, yeah.
And I went, check my body, I'm going, it's still working all right.
Yeah.
It's still functioning.
Yeah.
There's nothing on the radar at the moment that is alerting me that I'm going to struggle if I keep walking. My knees are still working.
Back is good.
Yeah, like I remember on the first day, I had one of my closest lifelong friends come on selection with us.
Wow.
So he was a sergeant as well.
Right, yeah.
And he was in a similar position because he had just returned from a operational deployment overseas.
Right.
And he wasn't in the zone either. He knew it. Yeah. But he still went ahead and did it. He was even questioning whether to go ahead with it at the start.
Right.
And I sort of said, no, we'll be right, mate, we'll be right. And I remember getting to I think it was the end of the first day, or no, was it the end of the first day navigation? So whatever it was.
Yep.
And I looked and I went to the checkpoint and I think it was the end of the first day, and we had to go up the road to the truck and wait.
Yeah.
But there was about 5 or 6 guys sitting over on the left hand side, sheepishly cleaning their weapons. And I went like this, and he looks up at me and goes, and I said, bro, what are you fucking doing, man? Come on. And he just shook his head, and I knew. Yeah. I didn't ever question him because I knew exactly what was going through his head. Yeah. That he just wasn't at the zone. Wasn't ready to do it. Yeah. And he would have kicked butt with it. You know, it's a shame that he didn't, take the opportunity to try it again later. Right. But yeah, I don't know if I would use the word encourage. I think what it does is it really cements, oh, you got this, man. You've got it. You've got it. You can keep going, because in your head, I wasn't thinking like that. Yeah, so to me, it was like a reassurance that, I like that. Your mind is focused right. It's tuned. Yeah. It's in the zone.
Awesome. Man, I like the way you describe that. Yeah, I like that. Because Yeah, it did. It made me, to a degree, it made me feel a bit better about myself that I was still on at that stage. Actually, on a sidetrack, the dunes. Did you have any? So we had a guy in our group. I'm going to call him out on here too, but he is awesome. He's gone on, but he's been on that First Among Equals. You'll know him, Dale.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he was in all. He is the one guy that I remember from my group on the dunes, or our group on the dunes, and he, like fresh off Civvy Street, he's got a funny story, but I'm not going to share it here. Comes in, and he was trying to keep up with the DS, so he was running us ragged during the day, and once we got into the later hours of the night. And I remember myself, and I forget who the other person was, but we pulled him in when it was darker at night. I said, bro, what are you doing? He goes, we've got to keep up with the staff. We have to. I was like, no, you don't, just blink and slow down. Like, we'll just walk along, they'll come back, we'll just move on. He goes, but the staff said we have to keep up with them. And I remember the staff and that talking about make sure you don't fall too far behind. And it took a lot of convincing. And then we were trying to strategically keep him from getting to the front because he's a machine.
Yeah.
He's a bloody machine. And he still is. But that's one thing that really stands out or stuck out to me about. That was probably one of the hardest moments for me, the dunes, because then you had the go out and leopard crawl into the water along the wet sand. Then you come back, and then you, like you were mentioning about, then you'd be hot, then cold. Then you'd sit for a while, muscles start to freeze up. And then you can barely open your hands, and you got to carry these jerry cans and then move, and then sand's gotten in everywhere, and then you're chafing. And I was like, man, this is rugged. But as people dropped off during the dunes, I found myself feeling a bit empowered. That's it. That's a good term. So yeah, I like how you've described that. Yeah, the empowerment that came from that, as disappointed as you are for your mates when you see them, it is empowering as you go through. How did you feel once you got to the? Oh, actually, I talked about this in my one. You're the second guy that walked past me on the 60 clicker. I never mentioned you in that one, but this is the gentleman right here. So on the 60 clicker, I remember John McNutt going past. Then later on, then you come past, and I'm like, what the hell? How were you feeling on the 60 clicker? What strategy did you use, if any, that you remember?
I went into the 60K. I remember the night before that. And another good friend of mine, we were sitting there under the hoochies at night because it was the first time you allowed some new time.
Yeah.
You could talk to other people. You could actually talk to other people. Like, you were treated as, and this is what I always look back, you were treated as an adult for the first time that you had your own little space. Rest up, man, because it's going to hurt tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you do what you want to do. You can sleep. You can sit up all night and talk if you want. We're not going to top you, but you do what you're going to do. So we're sitting there talking, and he says to me, he goes, bro, we've got this, man. We've done harder than this. We've done fucking harder than this. Excuse my French. We've done harder than the 60K before. And I sort of thought, have we? I've done a fighting withdrawal in the direct fire support weapons course with 2 front line and tripods and that. Yeah. It's heavy, man.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, I've done the mortars and stuff. I've carried some pretty heavy weights.
Yeah,
you're right, bro. We have got this. And I was like, oh man, this is gonna hurt. So my strategy for the 60K was to measure, to
pace it out, eh?
Because I know that you were just, if you know the area, you're basically walking along a surf beach, paralleling it, and there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's just dust, road, sun, because it was hot.
Yeah. It was beautiful
hot.
weather that day.
And
when
you
it
could hear the beach.
Yeah.
And you could just feel a little bit of the breeze, but then the breeze would turn to heat off the road, and it was a metal road, and there was just nothing. You were just tunnel vision, walking straight. You could see straight, and then you might get a little bit of a bump or whatever. So my strategy was I was going to pace, because you can't measure. You actually got a GPS, a map and a compass back in those days. But unless you had a map, because you had no map, all of your time measuring, your time measuring and your distance measuring devices, you didn't have them. You just didn't have them. So my strategy was to measure and pace. So I think for the first 5Ks, I thought I did a pretty good job. 5Ks, got 55 to go. I felt good. So I'd rest. I said I'd rest every 2K.
Right. Yeah.
Just have a rest every 2K. Just stretch, relax, keep going, and then I just keep going. But then and can't remember what time we started that.
I know it was in the morning.
It was in the morning, sort of 8ish, 9ish.
Yeah.
By the time they did the kit checks and,
Yep.
and they sent you off on your way. And I think you talked earlier on your Bill podcast
Yeah.
they timed it.
Yeah.
So
Staggered
I
us
think we're
out.
sort of near the last few
Yeah.
odd to leave. So you're sitting there just like anticipating the inevitable.
Yeah.
And anticipation is always worse than
Yeah.
the actual event. So off you trot, and you're trotting away there, and you're feeling good.
Yeah.
Last phase, man, we know this is, we've just got to get to the end. Even if I fall over I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
But you just got no time in zone, so pacing away. But it was probably mid-afternoon because it's daylight saving, so it wasn't getting dark till 8, 9
Yeah.
at night.
Yeah. That's
And it started to get about 4, 5 in the afternoon, and I was starting to go, I just lost track of everything. I didn't know what my name was, I didn't know how far I'd walk. I sort of went, it must be about 10 or 15, must be 20. So I thought, I must be about 4 or 5 in the afternoon, so I must be halfway, over halfway.
Gotta be, has to be.
If I was walking at 3 kilometres an hour, I've been walking for 8 hours, I've got to be nearly there. No, nowhere near it, man, nowhere near it. So it was just, I lost track of my strategy.
You were the only one, yeah.
But it was painful. The pain and the body was failing. It was giving up.
Yeah.
And you can't prepare for that. You can't prepare for it. There's nothing else except that bit of muscle that is going to keep you going, because everything hurts. Your little toe all the way through to your hair.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Your hair, so yeah.
And it's a struggle. It's a struggle within yourself. You keep, you're not going to stop.
Yeah.
But by crikey, there was times where I would stop, and it would take me 3 to 5 minutes just to get
up
a muscle group moving, because my knees, everything was locking.
Yeah.
And I'd never ever experienced anything like that before in my life. And I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
The lactic acid that was just burning in every single joint, muscle of your body.
Yeah.
So my strategy failed miserably. And the deers weren't allowed to tell you. They didn't tell you how far you'd
Yeah.
gone.
Told you nothing,
You
eh?
just walk past a checkpoint with water.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah.
And I'm going.
Are they going to call me back?
Yeah, they're going to say, "Oh yeah, you've finished." just tricking you. Finished. Yeah. So but yeah, that was a real. I think it was a growth experience, eh?
Yeah.
To get to the end of that was a real life experience.
Yeah.
And because I remember Bill when he came back off his selection, because he was, I think it might have been the morning between. I can't remember what it was, but I sort of was trying to pick his brains about how he trained and what he did. And
That's right.
He said to me, he did a 60K rehearsal. And he goes,
Who does that?
Don't do that, mate.
Yeah.
Don't do that. There's no point. Don't do that. Because he said it took him a couple of weeks to recover from that.
I bet.
I was going, okay, I won't do that. Mental note, don't
Yeah,
do a
yeah.
60K
Don't
rehearsal.
practice
Don't
60
practice.
kilometre pack march. Yeah.
Not a good idea. So I took that advice. But it's the strategy was to try and pace.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to know
Yeah.
in my head how much further I had to go. But of course, as you become fatigued, your body starts to switch down and close down on you.
Yeah.
You're moving slower, so time and space is changing.
Yeah.
But you think you're still
True.
walking at 3 kilometres an hour, but you're not. You're walking at 1.
Yeah.
1 or 2, and you just and that's where the mental challenge is you think that you're still walking at that, but then you realise that you're not, and that's where that hurdle is of going, I'm only making it like 1.5 k's an hour. But then I got to the point where I decided not to stop. I didn't want to stop, because I knew it just hurt too much to start again. It just hurt.
You did, eh?
It's just too painful. So I would just put my leg up onto the side bank,
Yeah.
take some weight off my pack,
Yeah.
change legs, and then just try and 1 foot in front of the other again.
Man, awesome.
Yeah. And it's a real the mind plays tricks on that thing.
Yeah.
I saw a deer fly by.
That's what I remember you saying.
Yeah, I saw a deer flew across the road in front of me, and it was like freaky, man. I was just going, I don't think that happened, but it really did.
Man, that's so cool. That's interesting, and great insights to what that what the whole selection and that particularly that element is like. I remember, sorry, one funny thing came to mind when you're talking about those tracks and the roads. I remember some of the boys, there was a part there where I was hammering along the road. I went on the road, I was like, man, I got to make up time. I've been driven back 3 kilometers 2 times now. I've got to go. So I get on the road, hammering, and I like paranoid, looking back, looking behind me. And then I got into a zone for a while, and I was just cruising along the road. Nobody in front, could see there's nice long straights. And then I happened to turn around. There was a quad coming from at the back, and there were guys on there. And I did a run. I broke track straight into the bush, ran into the bush. I don't know how far, and then dropped down and just sunk down, laid down flat. And then I could hear the quad stopped roughly around about in the area, and you could hear them come out into the bush, and they're like, "Get back out here! We know who you are." And I'm lying there thinking, "Whatever, you don't know who I am." And I'm like, so, and then they jumped back on the quad, and then I heard it take off, but I still laid there in case one of them was just waiting on the side. And I must have stayed there for, it felt like an eternity anyway, but I stayed there for, I didn't get busted again, which is good, and got to the checkpoint. But just so many, what was some of the funny things that you remember that stand out in your mind? The deer is obviously one of them now as you look back. What are some of the other funny experiences you look back now and go, bloody hell, that was funny?
Oh, look, I think one of them, look, you're always trying to cheat the system. You're trying to get what it is. It's almost like a game. The directing staff, the guys who are planning and running the selection, they're trying to cut off every single avenue of opportunity for the guys and girls who are there to be in selected for the unit. Yeah. So and the candidates are always going, how can we try and beat the system? So I had managed, there was this magic thing called spirulina. Spirulina was the magic energy thing. It's magic stuff. And I was going, what is it? So I remember going into, because we're on the selection was Hobsonville. Yeah. We're staying at Hobsonville, right? And we between whatever, it was between pre-selection and selection. You were given a day to go and do shopping, prepare yourself, say your last goodbyes.
Last goodbyes to your food and drink,
do all that sort of stuff in preparation for, hell couple of weeks. Sleep if you wanted, but everyone was all too hyped. So we went into this chemist and we wanted the spirulina, magic spirulina stuff. So I had managed to hide 2 of these little tablets into my webbing strap. Yeah. Because I thought if I get really, really tired, that'll be my magic. Well, one popped and just went, that was a stupid idea. But I had one. Yeah. I had one and I was going, I've got one up on it. It was just like spirulina, it's just like an organic thing. Yeah. But it keeps you awake. Yeah. Oh, right. I didn't know that. So I sort of thought, oh man, I'm absolutely shattered. And it was after the first day. And I thought, and I swallowed this thing, but you had to drive quite a long way to get to the open country navigation. Yeah, I remember those trips. Everyone else on the truck was all asleep when I was doing
full of beans.
Stupid thing anyone could even do. I was just like so wide awake and no energy, just wide awake. Yeah. I was going, nah, that spirulina's no good. And then when I sort of found out what spirulina was, I was going, it's just an organic,
nothing magic about it
at all. So I mean, that was probably one of the weirder things that happened. I was going, that was a stupid thing to do. But I mean, I don't know if I was too serious or too focused on the selection, but there was a whole lot of funny little things that you sort of look back on and you go, that was weird. But apart from the deer flying in front of my face, I don't remember a lot of comical or funny things that really sort of happened. Cycle was a different story. We'll get to that. But on selection, I don't know, maybe I was just too
in the zone.
Too zoned. In the zone, there was nothing going to stop me. And I don't remember a lot of hard case humorous things happening.
It's hard to have that though, with the DS and stuff around, and you'd see them even out on the open country walking along, sitting on references or spot heights and just watching, and you're saying, oh, far out, and just you come over something and look at them, oh gee, glad I looked there, there's a fence right there. Did you ever jump any fences with your pack on? Did you climb them with? You know how we were supposed to take our packs off,
I did.
place them over. Yeah.
Yep, I confess I did.
Yeah. Did you get asked that by any of the DS at when
Oh,
you
you
got
were
to
asked all the
checkpoint?
time.
Yeah.
Did you? Because what we had to go through. What do we had to take our pack off?
Take it
Take
off.
your pack off.
Place it
Then
over.
climb over.
Yeah.
And you know, it was. I think it was more to look after our own personal safety.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're just trying to make up time.
Yeah.
Anything to try and make up time, eh?
I reckon.
And you just have a look around, you see anybody, and you make a real quick calculation in your head.
Yep.
Is it worth taking the risk? Because if I get caught, I'm going to get punished real bad. And I think I did it, or maybe I did it once or twice, I think.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good.
But I sort of...
Took risks.
I probably spent most of the time being lost, and I didn't have to cross too many fences.
Oh man, talk about lost. I got the worst I got, because I think the first day we left in sort of alphabetical order, right? Because I remember I left roughly in the middle, like my surname, Hawtai H. I didn't leave first, but I remember going past Voltron on the first day. And I thought, and there was a few people that I saw, like, man, they look in a bad way. They're probably, they may not hang around. And I remember having a conversation with him, well, not a conversation, a couple of words when I went past, and he was talking about, it's like, man, I don't know if I'm going to think so. But I was so pleased when he carried on and finished.
Yeah.
But those aspects, day 2 of that open country, I got completely, I didn't know where I was. And my strategy, because being a young, immature baggy on there as well in selection, I went on there, and Brian Warnell on pre-selection was still teaching me how to navigate. So on the pre-selection, and he must have been thinking, I said to him, I was like, he must have been thinking, who the hell comes on selection and you can't even navigate, bro? And but man, I was so grateful for him, because he took some time. I actually felt comfortable asking him. And he was sitting there, and then he was showing me how to map to ground and stuff. And he goes, but bro, if all else fails, you take your bearing like this, you calculate your bearing, grid to mag, or grandma socks, migrate out, all that sort of stuff. And I was like, okay, yep, that's what I'm doing. And then I remember going over features, just following my bearing up and down. And I would see, probably would have been guys like you, but other more experienced soldiers, instead of going up and down that feature, like contouring around, come back on their bearing and carrying on. And I thought, man, I got to learn how to do that. But day 2, I got completely lost, because I was following orange marker panels as well as my backup. My bearing, if I saw somebody on my bearing, if they were heading that way, I'm chasing them. And then I got to the point where there was no orange panels anywhere, and I didn't know where I was. And it was just purely by luck. I was like, man, I was looking at my map. I was like, bloody hell, I don't know where this is. And I just picked a direction, walked. And then as I come around and looked down onto this clearing, I saw these orange panels moving along, and I just blinking hoofed it and started trying to chase them.
Those guys.
Yeah, get to those guys.
Because not everyone's doing the
That's
same.
right.
They're all crossing over each other, and if you pick the wrong one, because they're lost as well.
That's right. And that was the other thing going through my head. I was like, man, but the good thing for me on that day 2, was that there was about 3 or 4 of them that I saw heading in the same direction. I thought, man, okay, they can't all be wrong. They must, otherwise, if they are, well, all 5 of us are going to be in the wrong place. So I chased them. But little things like that, I think for me, as a young and mature person on the selection at that time, there were quite a lot of funny things. And I look back at it now, even though I couldn't speak to people, that in itself to me was funny, because I was like, all right, I'm just, I want to talk, bro, how are you feeling? What are you doing?
Your feet going.
Yeah. Bro, have you got any food? Those sorts of things. But man, I those things, and hearing your thoughts, your experiences, and that from it, I want to jump to, how did you feel when we finished the 60 clicker? We're back at the barracks, and then the next day we're getting ready to then have to march or hobble in front of the CO, and then getting told talk us through how that day was for you, and what you felt when you knew you'd been accepted to move on.
Yeah, it was probably the most anticlimactic experience
I'm
of
glad
my life.
you said that.
It was just weird. It was the most surreal feeling, because it was at that. I suppose if I just over sort of put an eggshell around that whole experience, it was almost like a real sudden realization that you're still a boy, you're still on selection, you're not in this unit.
Yeah.
All you have done is show us that you want to be here. Because that night you finish, totally anticlimactic. It's just like, you don't even feel happy for yourself. It's just like, you just sit down and go, oh. And there's no, bro, we made it. Man, we made it. It was just like, you're just looking at each other going, can't even recognise each other because you're so screwed in the head. You're just going, and then you've got like, for my I remember waiting. We had to wait for about an hour and a half.
Yeah,
2
man,
hours,
we were waiting for a while.
For a long time for everyone to get in, and it was getting later and later, and it was like your body was locking up, and you knew that how painful it was.
Yeah.
And I think the DS might have said, "Make yourselves a brew or just relax."
Yeah.
Just relax. They said seriously, just relax, guys.
Yeah.
Relax. There's nothing else to relax. And it was like hard to relax because you knew your body was going to hurt that when you had to leave this area. You just wanted to just...
Yeah.
But then, getting back to the barracks that evening, I don't think there was 5 words spoken. And
it's
the
quiet,
whole group, it was just so quiet. Everyone was... But there was a real bonding feel that we'd all just done it. We'd all just finished.
Yeah. And
we're all proud of ourselves and proud of each other. And you didn't actually have to say anything because there was a look, you just knew, But I think just jumping off track slightly, I remember that night seeing one of the guys, and I won't say who it was because he's still there. Yeah. But seeing his feet. Yeah. It blew my mind out of the water. I was sore. How the hell this guy got to the end, I don't know. His mental fortitude and determination to get there is beyond reproach because his feet were just raw red. They were raw red, and the whole sole of his foot. And I remember the next morning, and I took it as still part of the selection to make us form up soldiers and march across to the
compound
to the compound, and then have to march in arms and everything, salutes, but it was a test. It was a test that we could still be soldiers. Yeah, we weren't, anything.
We weren't broken. We could
were
still
soldiers first, and we had just been through a life-changing experience. I think is the best way to explain it.
100%.
Because it changes you in a whole lot of ways. And I remember marching in there, and the pain of just standing there, listening, just going, and not really actually fully
taking it in,
comprehending what was being said. All I remember hearing is saying, "Congratulations, well done on completing the New Zealand Special Air Service selection. We are pleased to inform you that you've been selected for further training. Do you have any questions?" No. That is all. You dismissed, salute, and then about turn is like, and march out. Yeah. And then you march out, and you're sort of in a real mixed state of emotion because not all the boys have been in yet. Yeah. And you don't know what's coming for the rest of the guys. You don't want to go, because you don't feel like going, you feel good that, wow, I'm past that first step. And I felt proud. I felt proud of the fact that I had got that far, that I'd finished. I felt proud of the fact that I had done the right training to get there. Awesome. And that my body had come out the other side, although sore, nothing broken. Yeah. I don't know if you remember, but one of the boys did selection with a cracked foot. Oh yeah, I do. On the first day of open country navigation, fractured foot. Jumped. He did everything right. He jumped over the fence, jumped down and broke a bone in his foot. So he did the whole selection. And there was all these stories of individual struggles that none of us knew each other were going through until we had a chance to talk about it later. Yeah. And it's like, far out, man. There's something about the guys who are still here around us. Yeah. After selection. Yeah. There's a commonality. There's a denominator here. And that is that top 6 inches is nothing was going to stop any of us. Yeah. And it didn't getting us to there. And I think it was a real mixed bag of emotions when we found out that some of the guys had not been accepted for further training. It was almost like an anticlimax. It was almost like a defeat. Yeah. And a part of us had been defeated, that some of our guys with us who'd been through that journey with us we're not going to be coming back up again in whatever 2 months' time.
Yeah,
5 or 6,
yeah.
whatever long it was. So it was a real mixed bag that day.
Yeah, man.
But I still remember ringing up my wife later that day, and saying, I didn't have much to say. I just said I did it. I did it.
How was she?
She was happy.
Yeah.
She was happy for me because she knew how much I wanted it.
Yeah.
She knew that it was going to be bringing change to the family situation. But she was very supportive. Well, she was supportive of me doing it because she understood how important it was to me as a soldier and as an individual to why I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So she was supportive. I can't qualify her thoughts to say very supportive, but she supported me in the fact that she came to Auckland with a young family, relocated, and supported me through the next phase.
Awesome.
After cycle she moved and came and then supported me on once completed cycle.
Awesome.
But it was sort of like it was really weird because I think we stayed in Hobsonville for 1 or 2 days.
Yeah, in the barracks there.
The barracks.
Convalescing. Yeah.
If you can call it that.
Yeah.
Just sort of stumbling between the mess and the showers.
Pretty much.
And just talking about our experiences that we'd had. Talking about our recollections of what had happened. But again, it was still... Because I think we still had the guys who hadn't been accepted.
Yeah, still around. Yeah.
So it was sort of like a bit of a mixed bag of... You don't want to be sitting there going, yeah. But you didn't feel like that anyway.
Yeah.
It was like you knew you still had a really long road to journey to get to the end.
100%.
And it never was. We knew there was... I think for me, the revelation was there was no end. There was no end.
Yeah.
You were always going to be doing, learning, being assessed. It was always a journey of doing it. And I think that's what I really enjoyed, and I think that's why I wanted to go up there.
That accountability piece is huge, eh? Like you say, it's like that daily renewable contract. It's always there. There is no end. Yeah, hey, you've passed selection, you get through cycle, you become a badge member, but you're still you're expected. You've been given the basics, the foundations. Now you need to build upon that and show us that you can continue. Was that your take on that?
Yeah, it is, and I think I just enjoyed the thought process that you had to always be showing that you wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And the only way you could show that you wanted to be there was to do your best at everything. And that's what I really enjoyed about it.
Yeah.
And my overall time there was you never ever got to the point where it's good enough.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
That's good.
I've done enough. That didn't exist.
No. There was always that process of self-elimination, group elimination, and unit evaluation, not elimination. So you're evaluating yourself, you're evaluating your team, and you're evaluating the unit and how you fit into it.
Yeah.
It never stopped.
Yeah, that's a great point. Those are great points because, I feel the same way in terms of what you're just sharing there. I want to ask a question. This is on behalf of, there's been a whole bunch of positive feedback come through around these things, and a guy by the name of Chris Webber, I think he did some time briefly in the Defence Force. He's down in Wellington, not a unit member, but I mentioned his name, Chris Webber. He's got a bunch of questions. I haven't got them in front of me, but one of the ones that I remember is, what sort of things from your experience, because you spent a number of years there, and you would have seen selections and cycles come through in your time, what sort of things stuck out to you? His question is, what sort of things would you look for? What were the things, the traits, I guess, that you noticed about individuals, whether they were on selection or cycle, that stuck out to you? We'll start with in a positive way first. What were some of those things?
I think I never participated as a directing staff on a selection.
Okay. Yeah.
I did some cycle training, specifically the small boating and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
But the positive things that everyone had was the willingness to learn, the willingness to apply, and challenge.
Nice.
Just because that's the way it's always been done, is there a better way to do it? And I think that those were common things that most of the guys had. and I wouldn't even say that fitness was one. It was a mental strength of just giving it everything.
Yeah.
No matter what, no matter even if guys were injured, they'd still be on cycle and they'd still be trying their best. You know, like guys with one arm, still trying to do dumbbell. You know, and it's not wanting to. So the team cohesion.
Yeah.
They all wanted to be team players.
Yeah.
There was I suppose those were the positive things, that their tenacity, their willingness to learn and apply, their ability to work with others, and to just keep going. Those were some of the really positive things, you know, that I always saw in everybody.
Yeah.
Even the guys that we did our selection all the way through, and the guys that kept coming through. Those are the common things that everyone's had.
Awesome. Those are great points, great insights. What about the flip sides of that? What are some of the, and I'm not necessarily talking about those that don't complete it. We know that, and I think you would agree, in terms of those that don't get through, it's probably more a case of they don't really want to be there, whether it's at that time or whatever the case might be. But we know that there are people that do want to, that do get all the way through selection, as an example, and then still, for whatever reason, don't get selected for further training. So it's cool. I didn't realise that you didn't help assist or DS on any selections, but the cycle side of things, what about the flip side of that? What things did you notice on those that I would imagine you probably saw or know of, and you don't need to name them, but individuals that probably got RTU'd on the cycle? Was there anything that stuck out to you that made you question, or was it because of the buddy ratings that were being done, that were coming through, that constantly Joe's been put at the bottom of the list, or whatever the case might be? Were there things that you noticed or that stuck out to you in the same way that those positive things did, but from a probably not so positive or more negative connotation towards, which resulted, it makes sense why that person's not here?
I think the number one thing was, and I don't like using the terminology lack of, that's not the right framework to word what I'm trying to say. I think one of the common factors of guys that struggled, and not necessarily not accepted for further training, because I don't think those guys were ever given a fair shake of the lamb's tail through the process to say that this is what I'm saying. What I saw was it was probably a lessened effectiveness or heightened awareness of their self-discipline.
Right. Yeah.
That top 6 inches, and not necessarily gelling because they sort of thought there is a better way to do that. We should do it that way, or whatever it is that happens. But self-discipline is one of the grounding factors of the unit in general.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't have self-discipline, it's got nothing to do with nothing else. It's because you are relied upon to make sure your phone is charged.
Yeah.
You make sure that you're not going to let the team down by anything that you as an individual do. Yeah. And that rides heavy on the guys' minds. It's always on their mind. Yeah. I can't do anything to let the team down. I'm not going to. And I think from what I saw was some guys didn't probably apply that self-discipline in the strictest application all the time. And it became obvious to the directing staff, and that puts a flare up. Yeah. So then you get watched more. And as soon as, like you said before, you just want to be the grey man. You want to sit in the middle of the Richter scale. You know, you want to be a 5. You don't want to be a 9 or a 1. You don't want to be the guy who can't put his firearm together in the dark. You don't want to be the fastest. You know, you just want to be the guy who can do it. You know, you're watching you in the middle of the road. Good. And that's it. But the guys, I think sometimes the guys probably just didn't quite apply that self-discipline factor. Yeah. And it really is a really integral part, the makeup of a soldier. Yeah. Or a seaman. Yeah. Or an airman. It's the grounding thing for the military in general is self-discipline. Because if you don't have self-discipline, you can't have team discipline. Yeah. And you can't have unit integrity and discipline, and therefore you're ineffective. So it's to me, it was probably one of the more important things to have as an individual.
Awesome. Man, that's great, Mids. I think that absolutely answers Chris's question. If I think of some of his other ones, I'll bring them up as well. I want to skip to cycle. How was cycle for you overall? What aspects did you find really challenging, or like more probably from a tactical or skill based level, and maybe from a mental aspect, like I don't know if I can do this. What things did Mids find challenging?
I think.
And how did you overcome them? Sorry, how did you go? Okay.
I think because of the time I'd spent in the infantry and a lot of time on weaponry, a lot of the cycle was. It was like taking the training that I'd been through,
Yep.
but injecting it with
Steroids.
and just doing it real time, fast time, all the time.
Yeah.
And if I use patrol procedures as an example,
Yep.
it was, to me, it was like second nature. It was not easy because everything was different.
Yep.
But being in that environment and being disciplined in the field and all of that sort of stuff sort of came a little bit more natural to me.
Yeah.
Small boating, I had experienced that in 1 battalion.
Right.
When I was in recon platoon.
Yeah.
We'd done the cliff assault course and the small boating and the
Gotcha.
para course.
Yeah. Oh,
so,
right. Yeah.
So I'd done those infill skill things to that level, to what was an advanced level in the infantry.
Yeah.
So doing them within the SAS environment was just that next level again. I mean, there's only one way you can jump out of a plane. I don't like it. I never saw the point of it. But it was a skill that you had to have and you needed to do it, and you did your best at it. Small boating, it was a lot more challenging because you had to do the coastal navigation and stuff was really detailed.
Yeah.
Really hard, and you had to go out there and do it every night. And then you came back and you'd be out up all night cleaning boats. And stuff. The basic climbing course. That was hard and really physically hard.
Yeah.
And I found things like the DEMS really enjoyable because I'd never done it before.
Yeah.
I'd never experienced it before. And it was a new skill for me, so I found that really enjoyable because it was really new. It was great. I really enjoyed that. But from memory, we did our cycle a little bit differently.
Reverse. Did the black roll stuff first and then
the military's commitment to the counter-terrorist teams, we did our black roll. So that was quite challenging because I'd never done that before. Yeah. So that was really quite challenging and quite... I think I'd fired probably 20 rounds for a pistol before then. Wow. To be doing what we were doing all day, every day, and at night. Yeah. And then doing the CQB. Yep. I mean, it's like far out. I mean, how we didn't kill each other. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, the guy with the feet, he was just like Tasmanian devil. No one would have been paired up with him because he was just... he was always getting pulled up. Elbows, flying around. But because from traditionally what would happen on cycle is they would measure your effectiveness from the patrol procedures. So answering your question, what I found challenging was they measured our effectiveness from the black roll, from the CQB and all of the black roll training.
Black roll stuff, yeah.
So it was a little bit different. Yeah. So it was you had to work that little bit harder to learn because it was an operational requirement to do it. It meant something because it was, we were going on to become, on standby for APEC that year. So it was real. So I found that quite challenging. But overall, cycle for me was quite challenging. Yeah. Because I was away from my family for extended periods of time. True. So I sometimes wouldn't see my family for 5-6 weeks. Yep. And I'd only see them for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
It wasn't long. And then I'd be back away again. Yep. And that lasted for the 8-9 months of the cycle. It was also challenging. I sort of felt a little bit of indirect pressure because I was a senior NCO. Yeah. So I knew that I was being looked at. Did you receive any
feedback from directing staff during the cycle because of your seniority, because of your senior NCO?
Yeah, I did. It was on the, I think it was on the patrol procedures. I was
Right.
pulled in,
Yeah.
and I was basically said that we were expecting to see more leadership from you out there.
Yeah, right.
And I sort of went, oh, okay. So for the whole time, we'd all been just in this big mixed pot,
Yeah,
and we're all the same. We're all on the
that's
same
right.
level. But all of a sudden, I was pulled in.
Oh.
I said, we're expecting to see more leadership from you out there
Yeah,
in the field during the drills and during all this sort of stuff.
right.
So I sort of struggled with that a little bit, going, okay, what do they mean? Do they mean that I'm not, because you're still being assessed?
Yeah, yeah.
Do they mean I'm not measuring up? Does it mean that I'm falling short in some area? Are they saying that because they just genuinely expect to see more of a leadership role from me out there?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was quite strange for me. I okay, I was trying to weigh up what it meant, really deep, what it really meant.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, you overanalyze everything. Nothing. You think nothing's on face value.
Yeah.
Everything's got
an agenda. Yeah.
Something there. Oh, are they gonna? Is this my last warning? Am I on my way out? So yeah, but you know, and we were briefly chatting about our cycle. Man, I loved that whole cycle. They were the best bunch of misfits ever get together in one group ever.
It's a pretty awesome group, all right.
I mean, there was some rat bags in there, you know, some real rat bags, and it was just every weekend it was like someone would turn up with their arm in a sling, or someone grazes down their face, and it's like what the hell happened to you, man? And you know, I won't get into the details of some of the stories.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, cars and it was just
Out of balconies.
Jumping out of windows and running. But man, we had a great cycle. All of the guys were just absolutely fantastic. They really were. And they made cycle enjoyable because they were also mischief. Yeah. And they were all really keen to do the job as best they could. Yeah. But when it was stand down or when it was time off, man, it was game on. It was
they made
crazy.
the most of it.
It was crazy. And you know, I remember the whole cycle got called in by the training warrant officer, and he said, he was a very quietly spoken gentleman. Yeah. And he just said, "This is the worst cycle I've ever had to deal with." and we all just stood there and looked and went, "Oh no, far out. Are we that bad?" We had as a cycle been in a bit of trouble. You know, and there was a couple of individuals in there who went on to keep up with that mischief. You know, cakes and things like that. But yeah, I mean, we had a really great cycle. And it made cycle. It made the cycle enjoyable, for want of a better term. Yeah. It made it enjoyable because we had such a good crew on our cycle. Yeah. And we all stuck together, and we all fed off each other, and we all helped each other. It was really good. And for me, it was the first time I'd be living back in the barracks.
Yeah, true. It would have been because you would have been in the housing area, eh?
You know, it was all very foreign, but again, it was determined to get through. Yeah. And every day you just knew you were being measured, and you just get up, and every night you went to bed, you went, made it through another day. Yeah. Made it through another day, you know, and it was just, it was good. It was good. It was a real, you know, even though I'd been in the military for 13 odd years, I was learning so much. Yeah. You know, I was, because I was such a good, well-behaved young soldier. It was the first time I'd been around such a bunch of retrobates. So, you know, I was really just like, oh wow, what are these guys doing? So it was actually quite refreshing to be back in the mischief environment. Yeah. You know, of just getting up to some mischief, and not silly mischief, just mischief. You know, having a few beers and a laugh and getting up to a bit of mischief. It was really quite refreshing from being the sergeant who had to, you know, set the example and stuff. And I was sort of like going, oh, far out, you know. Okay, okay, cool, carry on. But yeah, professional guys. Every single one, you included, just professional to the bone, all the way through. And we lost a few along the way, for various reasons. And you know, that we all shared the same characteristics. But as I said before, for various reasons,
Yeah.
some of them just didn't quite meet the expectations of the unit at that time.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they didn't have them, but it was at that time in their
Yeah.
career, they probably didn't display what the unit was looking for at the time.
That's it, eh? That's it. I love the points, everything that you just mentioned there. And I love when you mentioned at the end of selection, it was this, obviously it's quite an achievement, but also this sense of I've done something, we've done something pretty special here, and how that flows on to not only the cycle, but beyond that.
Yeah.
And we're going to jump back to cycle and stuff as well. But I would love for you to speak about what aspects did you take from that selection? Man, this is different. This is a different Kane Middleton. He's finished selection. He now realizes that he's can go through a whole bunch of crap, and come out the other side. We may be a little bit sore, beaten up, all that sort of stuff, which was there, but there's so much more potential and there's more to give. And then you showed that again on cycle, and now sort of moving forward a little bit, because we will come back to cycle and that sort of stuff again, transitioning out of the unit. And what was that like for you, and what was the catalyst for you to transition and go, okay, I'm going to leave the unit? We'll come back to your time serving as well, but just fast forwarding a bit, because I'm interested to talk about this and your particular business that you have now, and then come back to time serving. What was the catalyst for you looking to leave the unit?
I was 37.
Yeah.
And there was so much to do. There was still so much to do in the world.
Yeah.
I'd set myself the goal to be in the Special Air Service, and I'd achieved that, and I enjoyed my time there no end.
Yeah.
Everything about it was magic.
Yeah.
Everything was great. And at the time, there was guys operating as private security contractors overseas.
Yeah.
There was a fair bit of work on at the time.
Yeah.
And I sort of went, oh, man, there's so much to do. What do I want to do? My 20 years is up in a couple of months, and I still remember grabbing the SSM's attention in the hallway and saying, "Oh, look, I'm gonna move on." And he said to me, "Are you sure? Are you sure you want to move on? You're scheduled to do the training development course later this year." And I went, "No." In my head, I'd made that decision.
Yeah.
I knew
Gotcha.
that I'd made that decision in my head, the same as what I did that I was going to selection. That was it. I'd made that conscious decision. I had lost my marriage. I was single. I was living back in the barracks, and I went, there's so much more to do out there. I want to go out and do something, do some more stuff.
Yeah.
I'm 37, and I've always had the attitude that I don't want to lie on my deathbed and say, I wonder if I could have. I wonder if I should have. What if I had?
Yeah.
I don't want to, be dragged out kicking and screaming. Not. So I decided to move on. I just said, no, I'm going to move on. And I think 2 or 3 months of leave or something. I can't remember.
Yeah. Right.
So I left the unit just before Christmas. Just left the units for Christmas, and then I sort of moved on fully, completely, in sort of February 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2006. So I moved out, and I just sort of thought, right, let's go. I'm going to go. But for whatever reason at the time, and I had a bit of a complex about it, couldn't get any work overseas at all. There was nothing.
Really?
There was nothing. So I had pretty high expectations of what I wanted to do. Yeah. But there was just no positions anywhere. There was nothing. Right. There was no contractor work going on at all, and I had all the guys looking. And my break came probably around about February, March, April
of that same year of 2006. Yeah.
I got a phone call. Hey, what are you up to? Do you want to come over and do some cover? Yeah. I went, yep. What do I need? Yeah. Just bring your passport and we'll give you the rest. Yeah. So it was with a company that only at the time was hiring ex-British and New Zealand operators.
Yeah.
So I thought, yep, that's what I want to do. That's what I wanted to work for.
Yep.
But there was just nothing. So went over there, and it was like walking back into the compound.
The compound.
It was, mate. It was like everybody was all like we're all just gone, and I was going, far out. This is so familiar.
Yeah.
It was so familiar. In a confrontational area, in a compound
With guys that you trust.
with guys that I'd worked with and trusted and knew.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, yeah, I made the right decision.
Mm.
I made the right decision. This is good, you know. And the money's considerably better than what it was when I was in the military. Oh yeah, this is sweet. So this was only a cover job, and it was only for 3 or 4 weeks, I think. It wasn't a big job, and there was never going to be any guarantee of ongoing work.
Yep.
So I was trying my best to, you know, to do my job that I was supposed to be doing, and to do it the best so that I could hopefully try and secure further work. But you know, it was because there was no other work that no one was moving. It was just the pigs were in the hole. So we went round to, the guys really helped me out, where they went and took me to all sorts of security companies all over Baghdad.
Yeah.
But they were the same companies that I'd given my CVs to.
Is
They
that
met
right?
and chatted with me. I said, sorry mate, we've just got nothing going on at the moment. It's gone very quiet.
Right.
So I was a little bit despondent then. I got back to New Zealand and I was sitting there and I basically sat on my hands for another 2, 3, 4 months.
Right.
So I was really like going, have I made the wrong decision here? Because money's starting to get thin.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to get over the stay at home all day sort of stuff, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I bought a chopper. I built a chopper with some guys in the US and imported that, and had my car and my bike, but it was like it still wasn't. Excuse me. It still wasn't really satisfying.
Yeah.
What I was looking for. And then I got a phone call at 4 o'clock in the morning from a guy in Africa.
Yeah, right.
Hey, what are you doing? I said, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm sleeping. He goes, oh, we're having a bit of trouble over here. Do you want to come over? I said, okay, yeah, that'll be cool. Yeah, I'll send you through. I'll email you through all the documents. So they emailed me through the documents, and then it was like, where are the documents? Hurry up!
Yeah.
So I got all the documents back, and yeah, I sort of went into Africa, working on a commercial gold mine.
Yeah, right.
And it was completely different to walking into the compound in Baghdad, because this was a commercial operation, and security was just a cost centre. No one wanted it.
Yeah.
Everyone needed it, but no one wanted it. It was just the GM was like, "Oh, you guys are just costing me money."
Yeah, yeah.
So it was a huge, steep learning curve for me to step into a commercial world, as opposed to a military type and private security environment. So to answer your question, what was the transition like? It sort of just blurred in.
Yeah.
That I'd gone from the military and hopped and then jumped, because the mining industry is very much like a camp. You've got everything. You've got your own administration, you've got your own finance areas, you've got your own training sections, you've got your own you've got your own mess that you'll cook for, you have people do your washing for you, sort of stuff. So all you do is, it's just like, oh, I'm back in the military.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just like, it was so natural. So initially I didn't really have much of a transitional challenge.
Right.
But
so was that the first sort of 12 months all up? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but I really realised how unskilled I was out there in the real world when I got asked by the guys that I was working for in Baghdad to provide an invoice.
Yeah, right.
And I went, what's an invoice? Total blank. What's an invoice? Because everybody else did all that.
Yeah, yeah.
I just get the money. Don't you just pay me?
Here's my bank account.
Yeah, so I had to ask one of the boys, goes, bro, have you got an invoice template?
Yeah.
You know? And what about it? I bumbled my way through it. So it was sort of the first taster of how unskilled I was in that area, of how because as a troop sergeant in the SAS and that, you do all your planning and all that sort of stuff, but you just send off an email.
Yeah,
It didn't happen. You plan it, you write out your plan, you do your scheduling, your budgeting and all that, and it just happens. And then you execute the training or whatever, and you go and do it.
Yeah.
But when you're out there in the scary world, there's nobody doing any of that doing. You're the doer.
Yeah.
You know? So my first experience of transitioning away from that side of it was working in that commercial environment where I sort of got pretty fortunate, was I stepped into a superintendent's role, which was a senior role within the mine.
Yeah.
So I learnt a lot really quick.
I bet.
And I had to. So it was that mindset of just learn, apply. Just do, see what's happening. Don't let anyone know you don't know what you're doing, and just learn, just apply it and learn it, and act like the goose in the pen, and do what the other geese are doing.
Yeah.
Fine. So yeah, I was there for a while. The transition away from the unit, I didn't really find too challenging because I was still seeing the guys regularly.
Yeah.
There was a definite two groups of guys. There was the guys on the private security contracting area in the circuit, and then there was a guy still in the unit.
Yeah.
And I suppose I sort of saw and chatted to both groups.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel the break in the bond.
Yeah.
Which is where I believe the transitional challenges come from. Not from missing the cold centuries at 2 o'clock in the morning. Not missing the cleaning the Zodiac at 2 in the morning after coming off the water. Not the lying in a hide, rain running down the back of your neck, going clear. None of that.
Yeah.
You don't miss any of that. What you miss is all of the comradeship and that transitional phase for me didn't really occur probably until reasonably recently.
Right.
More recently, because I'd been in the mining sector, my life was still deploying away, coming home, deploying away, coming home,
Gotcha.
deploying, coming home. So I was away, when I was in Africa, I was away for 5 weeks, back for 3. And then I ended up working up in Papua New Guinea, which was an amazing experience. And I spent just on 10 years up in Papua New Guinea.
Wow.
And the flight schedules were very hectic. So you just never really felt like your feet were ever on the ground for much time. And I suppose the transition point for me really came at the point where I lost my second marriage. Because I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
I was being told, "Oh, you're angry, you're short-tempered," and I didn't really understand what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
But I was going through that transition phase. I was starting to realise that I'm no longer an effective part of the military. I'm not really. I think if you look at it, I see the transition away from the military like the breakdown of a relationship. You go through that. You go through the denial. No, I'm still in there. I'm still in there, mate. Yeah, come on, let's go to happy hour. And you're still going. You meet. You're still similar ages. You're denying that you're not part of that group anymore. You think that you are, and then you sort of go through. Once you start understanding that, you sort of go through an anger stage. Where you're angry and you're bitter and you're twisted about it all, and then you sort of start going through a stage of trying to work it all out in your head and going, "Oh, can we do this? Maybe we could do this. Maybe we could do that." But ultimately, you get to the end there where there's the grieving stage. There's the grieving. You actually wake up and you go, "I really miss the guys. I really miss that lifestyle. I miss it." But you refuse to accept it because you're a big boy.
Yeah.
You're a big boy.
I don't need that.
I don't need that. I can do everything by myself. Thank you very much. I don't need you guys. I'm fine. And that's what you tell yourself all the time. I'm fine. I'm all right. So yeah, my transition really didn't start, I don't think, till about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, right.
So after being out of the military for, nearly close
10
to
years.
10 years.
Yeah.
I didn't really start to understand myself, and the catalyst for that was the breakdown in my relationship with my ex-wife.
Yeah.
Who was very understanding and very supportive and very trying to to help guide me and all that sort of stuff. But and especially after listening to your conversation with Bill, I was labelled. Okay, I was labelled as broken. Something wrong with you. The military's done something to you. But it wasn't the military. It wasn't anything. It was me just coming to terms with all of those things. Yeah. You know, those unseen things. So that the military hadn't done anything to me. You know, I volunteered to join the military. I volunteered to leave. I don't believe that the military owes me anything, and that might be contrary to a lot of guys' thought processes. Yep. But me, I never looked at the military breaking me. Yep. The military gave me a set of skills that have helped me on every level of life, all the way through. You know, so without the military, I don't know. You know, you can't say where you'd be. Yeah, yeah. But the military gave me a set of skills, not just the physical skills, but it trained that top 6 inches. Yeah. And it didn't spit me out. I left on my own.
On your own terms. Accord. Yeah.
There was no bitter ill feelings. I didn't walk out the door feeling angry or bitter. I felt proud of my service. I felt proud that I'd done my 20 years. Yeah, 100%. I'd done what I had set out to do. I'd achieved everything that I felt I wanted to achieve. I could have stayed on. Could have stayed on and kept going. Yeah. But I just wanted to get out there to do other stuff. And I didn't experience those separation issues until maybe 5, 6, 7 years later. Yep. And I didn't know what was going on at the time. Didn't understand it. Just did I'm all right.
How did you identify it? You mentioned your ex-wife was supportive and mentioned a few things. Was there anything else that helped you? Did you seek counselling? Did you do any of that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I went through counselling through my first loss of my first marriage. Yeah. And that helped me a lot. And it was, I suppose there are things that organisationally wise that can be done better. Yeah. Okay, there's no doubt about that. It's always the case. I reached out for help, but it took a year, and after a phone call to a very close friend, to actually get some action taken. Right. And by that time, it was too late. I'd lost my marriage. I'd lost my relationship. It was too late for that. Not for me, it wasn't. It helped me. Yeah. But at the time, it was too late for my relationship with my ex-wife. Unfortunately, it was just. But that was a year. So things are getting better in that sphere. They're developing. Yeah. Because it's a relatively new. I think it's a relatively new phenomenon that, because I think as a society we're becoming a little bit more in tune with our emotions, how we feel, and we're not like we were 30, 40 years ago where, you just toughed it out. Now it's people are encouraged to share their feelings and embrace your feelings and share them and talk about them, which is a good thing, right? Yeah. But organisationally wise, maybe we haven't kept up with that. Process wise, we haven't kept up with that. And it's fixable. It's all fixable, and it's being fixed slowly. Yeah. But I'm not bitter about the fact that it took a year. Yeah. Because, I've been working with some wonderful people to get me to where I am now. And sort of using me as an example of this is what can happen. This is how people can slip through the cracks. If we don't follow our procedures and processes properly, people can fall through the cracks. When somebody puts their hand up for help, you need to grab that hand and drag them in and say, how can we help? And it's the same as you and I having a chat or anything. It's not that complicated. Yeah. But unfortunately, we wrap bureaucracy and process and militarism around it, because as a veteran, you're still even though you've been out of the military for so long, you're still classed as a soldier. Yeah. But you're not. You're a civilian who's been out in the civilian world
100%.
for the last however long.
Yeah.
And you're accustomed to the way things happen out in the real world. So, you know, it's just transition is just it is a real thing. I think though that from my own experience only, it's a process of grieving, and you just need to identify, and once you identify that you are actually grieving the loss of something, that you're never going to be able to run an RFL, and you're never going to be able to do 50 press ups and 25, all these chin ups, and you know, because your body's starting to ache a little bit. It's a sudden realization, and you know, it's almost like a midlife crisis. You just have a bit of
description.
A mini emotional crisis within yourself, and it can last a day, a week, a month, a year. Some people might not even get through that.
Yeah.
But I think if we can declutter the processes and stuff, it'd be a lot simpler.
Yeah, man. I love how you shared that. Some really personal and private stuff as well, and I appreciate you sharing that, Mids. The lessons and learnings, and part of what you've just spoken to there, I know there's so many people I could connect and resonate with a whole bunch of stuff that you've just mentioned. I know our audience and stuff will connect and resonate with that as well. I want to jump to this Outrider. How did this come about? What was the catalyst for going, I'm going to start a motorbike shop? I mean, I know you mentioned you were doing dirt bike racing, competition stuff before the army and that sort of stuff as well. So you've done all this other stuff, you've gotten out, we'll come back to the unit and cycle and some other stuff there serving, and you've done some time on the circuit, felt that bond. It was like walking into the compound and stuff again with everybody that you knew. Then you've gone to Africa and you've worked in this very commercialized world, and you've done a whole bunch of other things as well. And then there's this Outrider store. How did this come about?
My whole life, I've always wanted to have a motorcycle shop.
Right.
I didn't know what shape it was going to be, and I never saw myself as having like a traditional motorbike shop.
Yeah.
As a kid, I remember going into Christchurch, and I remember bugging my mother every time we'd go to Christchurch. Can we go to the Christchurch motorcycle shop, which was down on Churm Street, and it had a big Triumph logo painted on the side of this brick building. And it was a second-hand parts, and you know, they just sell second-hand parts and salvage and scrap, and they'd have a few motorbikes and that sort of stuff. And I'd just walk around in amazement, just looking at parts and everything like that, and it always just captured my imagination, I suppose. And there was a guy who was up in our out the back in a small town in Canterbury,
right?
And he had his own little like motorcycle engineering shop where he used to machine and make his own.
Just
parts.
on his own property?
Yeah, just in his shed.
Yeah, right.
You know, his shed. So he had his lathe and his drill mill press and everything there. And he would basically make motorcycle parts for people.
Wow.
Specialising in British and European sort of motorcycles.
Yeah.
You know, because Harley Davidsons weren't really around back then. It was all Triumph, Norton, VSAs and the likes all around the place. So I left P&G in 2018.
Right, yeah, okay. Not long ago.
No.
Yeah.
No. And I was seeing a woman at the time, and we're just sitting there having a coffee, and she said, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't know, actually. I've always wanted to have a motorcycle shop.
Yeah.
And she goes, why don't you? And that's why I resonated with what Bill was saying.
Yeah.
Something totally like just fantasy world sort of thing. Well, why don't you? And I sort of stopped and I took a breath and I went, yeah, why don't I? Why don't I do it? There's nothing stopping me right now. There's nothing stopping me. So I started to investigate how I could do it, what I could do. I believed that I had established enough business acumen with my time within the mining industry on budgeting and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I thought, I can do this. I can do this. So I started dreaming about what I wanted and how I could do it. And it's been... So I registered the company Outrider Motorcycles. So Outrider came from the term that we gave ourselves on the motorbikes over in
the
overseas.
patrols,
And so I mean, that's a story in itself. We can talk about that
Yeah,
later, how
yeah.
that came to be.
We will.
That was comical in itself. But, you know, we developed that and really enjoyed it. And it was great. Fantastic role, which just was really enjoyable role.
Yeah.
So I sort of thought, what can I call my business? And I sort of thought, yeah, Outrider. Outrider is pretty cool. So I registered the company, and to be honest, I just fluffed around with it for about 6 months or a year.
Right.
Because I had enough money to sustain myself
Yep.
comfortably without
Too much stress or anything. Yeah.
So I didn't have to go and find enough money to earn baked money for dinner and sort of thing. So I just fluffed around in it. But things really got real for me probably about November 2019.
Yeah. Okay. So about a year later,
A year afterwards.
Yeah.
So we took off over to the US, went to a huge expo in Las Vegas. It was magical. It was like far out. I've never seen anything like it before.
Yeah.
The size and the scale. I mean, America's just big. Everything's big.
Yeah.
But this expo was just like mind blowing. So we saw the new Harley Davidson range that was coming out.
Wow.
Yamaha. So everything that was coming. We didn't see it in New Zealand for 2-3 years. Some of this stuff.
Right.
So it was a real opportunity to chat with some suppliers. And,
Yeah.
go, I really like. So I met that sunglasses range there.
Yep.
That's a veteran-owned business in the US.
Oh, yeah. I see the label on it too.
Yeah, so we stock their products. They're Epoch, EPOC.
EPOC. Yeah.
So and I met all these like-minded people, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I felt comfortable in the environment with the motorcycle fraternity over there.
Yeah.
They're all friendly and nice and really good. So I thought, this is what I'm going to do.
Awesome.
Had my business model, nothing like what it is today. Totally morphed into sort of a totally different thing. But I just applied myself as if it was a cycle.
Yep.
That just keep going, keep trying, keep going. I wouldn't call we've had failures, but we've certainly had some extreme challenges in this startup of this business.
Yeah.
So I had a little workshop on the other side of Pukekohe.
Yeah.
It was basically where I went and had my coffee. It was just, I had some gear in there. I don't think I ever had a customer. It was just like I was buying all this gear.
Yeah.
Because I knew where I wanted to be. The gear started to arrive, and then I suddenly went, I'm paying all this money for this workshop, but I can't get in and out because there was a fascia contractor next to me, and everything was blocked. It was frustrating.
Yeah.
So I decided to move to a different premises, but the premises was about as big as this office.
Wow.
And I had this awesome young fella coming and helping me.
Yeah.
And to do a job, we would have to move 6 motorbikes out
to then do
put
one.
5 in and then do it all reverse order at the end of the day. And I said to him, mate, this is not working. And he goes, it's not working. So I found this place, so things were getting real now.
Yeah.
I started to get my first customers. Started to get no one knew who I was. No one knew who we were. But I started to get a couple of customers, and then I realised real quick that we were too small premises. So we moved in here, and I moved in here. I think I moved in here February 2020.
2020. So before the lockdown.
Just in time to get smacked in the face with the first lockdown. Which was extremely frustrating because, as I was saying, things were starting to get real.
Yeah.
Needed to get the business moving, needed to get it running, needed to transition from startup to operations.
Yeah.
And we were sort of teetering on that lockdown. Stay home, don't come back till you're told. So it was extremely frustrating. And then it got more frustrating after that because, and this is where I think I got to the low point in the business cycle, was I couldn't get tradesmen, I couldn't get anybody. I had a paint booth that I needed ducting put through the roof. Couldn't get anyone to do it. Finally found a guy to do it. I owed me $4,500. And I just stood there with a tear running down my eye going, you got to be kidding me,
to
mate.
put a hole in the roof
You
and put some
ducting. You got to put a hole
ducting.
in the roof and chuck a tube up through it and put a flashing down it. $4,500. So I was at my wit's end. I was going far out. It was probably like that moment on selection and stuff. Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Shall I just bin this? But I just went, go home, sleep, come back. Tomorrow's a new day. And so we bumbled our way through it. Business just started to get traction.
Yeah.
boom, lockdown again.
Lockdown again.
Don't come in. And what I've identified is that every time we have one of these lockdowns, people's confidence, people's willingness to do stuff is diminishing. So it's been really challenging on a whole lot of fronts.
I bet.
But we're proud of what we've done. We are managing to keep our head above water, and we're focusing on the future.
Yeah.
And I'm taking those ethos and what I've learned specifically from cycle and selection.
Yeah.
Just keep going. Don't stop. Anyone can stop. It takes a special kind of something to keep going. Getting up in the morning with an optimistic out view and going, today's going to be all right. We're going to make it through. Because without that attitude, it would have folded a long time ago, because we're a new kid on the block.
Yep.
To us, reputation is everything. Nothing goes out of our doors here unless it's to the right standard. If it's not, it either doesn't go or we fix it. So we've applied some of those tenets that I've learned over the years to the business, and it's not a struggle, but it's different because I've got a great young fella working with me as part of the team.
Yeah.
And he understands what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
It's got to be this.
Yeah.
It can't be this. It's got to be this.
Yeah.
I only want this. But also balancing that with, not everybody is like you, Kane.
Yeah.
Not everybody is the same,
Yeah.
which I've learned through my journey up to, that sort of stuff. Because, you talk about the transition, but coming from the military and the unit especially, where everybody is of the same mindset.
Yeah.
We can do it better. We can do it faster.
Yeah.
We can always do it better. There's got to be better ways to do it faster, easier ways. Challenge the norm. Push the boundaries. How can we do this differently?
Yeah.
But achieve what we're going to do. To transitioning out to a bunch of guys who really don't give too much.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm here to collect my paycheck, mate.
Yeah.
Tell me what you want done, and I'll do it.
It's good enough, isn't it? It's
What do
close
you mean?
enough.
It's cool.
Yeah.
For you, it's cool. For me,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
For me, it's not to the right standard. So you've really got to temper not lower your standards by any means.
Yeah.
You've just got to temper it with the need for training and educating to get them
to come up,
to get them back up, to get them up to where you expect it.
Yep.
Not dropping what you expect down there.
Yeah.
And it's been but I had a friend tell me, and it still rings in my brain, that this business is not, because I'm single, and I've been single for just on the last year now,
Right.
and the comment was made that this is the first time in your life that you have had to wash your own clothes, dry your own clothes, put your clothes away, go and buy your own food from the supermarket, cook your own food, clean your own house, do all your own stuff, mow your own lawns. Then you've got to go to work, and you've got to not only find the work, you've got to do the work, you've got to do all the administration, you've got to invoice the work, you've got to balance all your books, you've got to do GST, you've got to do taxes, you've got to manage your workers, you've got to keep finding the business, you've got marketing, you've got to, these are things that you've never ever had to do for yourself.
Man.
So the last year especially has been like, it's been like, those skiers, they go down the
and then they hit the ramp.
It's been like that, and I'm just about to get to the ramp and launch, and it's like really quite nerve-wracking in a lot of ways. But I've just got that attitude. If it's been done before, we're going to do it. We're going to be right. It's going to work.
That's awesome.
I've been asked, what's your backup plan? There is no backup plan, man. There's no backup plan.
I love that. Yeah. I love that mindset and those points. Just keep going. Just keep turning up each day. I love how you've mentioned there is no backup plan, because you've got all these very successful people in business and lots of other things who live by that sort of mantra. This is the plan. There's only one plan, and I'm going to keep showing up each day. The plan may morph.
Yeah.
So as you spoke about, the plan today and what you do today is sounds like it's different to what it was when you started. And that's a good thing. But the direction, the focus, the vision for what Kane Middleton has, for what Outrider is going to be, is still there.
Yep.
And so I love that. I want you to speak about the Outrider piece that you're talking about, and that aspect of it from the operational perspective you're talking about, eh?
Yeah, I mean, we were pretty fortunate. I think it was the first tour over there
Yeah.
to Afghanistan, and we were very envious because we had another. I won't mention who it was.
Yeah.
But we had another coalition member who used to have beer flown into theatre, and I was like, "Hey, how do we get that?" We were hitting up. I was like, "How do we get that?" We weren't so lucky, but they used to invite us across for a beer and a barbecue when we were coming off a patrol.
Yeah.
And struggling's not the right word, but we were bumping around everywhere, crossing ditches and all sorts of stuff, and it seemed like we'd go 2 kilometres in one direction, and it was like, oh, far out. This is a long patrol, and we'd come back and we'd been invited to this barbecue because we're good buggers, buggers. And we went along to this barbecue, and maybe I might have had half a can too much, and I leaned up against this Hessian, what I thought was a wall, but it was just a Hessian, like the sacking
cover
material.
Yeah.
It was just a Hessian wall, and I leaned up against it and I fell through it. And I'd been talking to this guy, and he goes, "Oh, you're right." And I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." But I'd fallen through this wall, and then behind the wall, they had 6 KTM
bikes in that
640 LC4 enduro machines.
Far out.
All decked up in desert gear, all decked up in the big huge 30-litre desert tanks.
Yeah.
And I just went, instantly I went, "Are these yours?" And I was lucky enough to be talking to the guy who looked after the bikes.
Wow.
He said, "Yeah, we brought them across to use them, but don't use them." And we jacked it up the next day to go for a ride.
Yeah.
So I said to one of the other guys, "Okay, we want to go for a ride tomorrow." So we teed it up that we're going to go for a ride around, just to have a bit of a buzz, have a bit of a ride. So we went the next day and we grabbed 2 of them.
Yeah.
Me and my mate, we grabbed 2, and we went riding around, and we had a ball. We were out for about an hour and a half, and I said, "Hey, let's go back to the compound." So we rode up to the compound, parked them out the front, went and saw our squadron commander.
Yeah.
"We've got to get these," and he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "This is what we need to help us, to provide us with some route integrity and that sort of stuff to help us out." So he pulled there's a smooth talker. I won't mention names. He knows who he is. Smooth talker. He went and smooth talked their commander. And hello, he goes, "Yeah, Mid's go and grab a couple of those bikes." I was like,
Awesome.
"You serious?" He goes, "Yeah, it was like Christmas." So we went and grabbed a couple of these machines and we set them all up. And
Awesome.
so that started the journey of the Outrider. And we've had some of New Zealand's bravest people as Outriders. And a lot of them have been decorated for their bravery. And it was sort of that was an unknown quantity of the people who put their hands up to be the Outrider. They just had a willingness to take a little bit extra risk and go, "Yeah, I want to do that." So I think
Awesome.
I rode with 2 or 3 different guys.
Yeah.
And then I stepped away. I said, "Oh God, it's time to hand over the reins, because you guys can ride around." And they carried on, and it's now something that the guys to do, and it was great. It was an awesome experience to be doing what we were doing, and I came back and I went, "Yeah, that's a cool name for the business."
It
because
is.
it's not trademarked. It's not anything. It's just and I sort of the thing that confirmed for me. I just Googled Outrider, and the police, fire, and the military, they were sort of all called the Outrider. So the Outrider, the most common term for the Outrider is in police escorts.
Right. Yeah.
On motorcycles for motorcades and stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought, yeah, that's a pretty cool generic name for the business. But what I realised I did, Joe, was I put the word motorcycles against my business.
Right.
So I cut it for what we do, which is a lot of automotive refinishing work.
Yeah.
My market is motorcycles, automotive, power sports, marine, aviation stuff.
Right.
So I'd cut out 80%, 90% of my clients by putting the word motorcycles in, because people don't go and get they don't go and get their V8 headers done and high temperature ceramics at a motorbike shop,
Mm,
they go to a car shop. So hence we born
gotcha.
Pukekohe Performance Componentry Refinishing.
Refinishing.
Say that 5 times after 3 whiskies, mate.
Yeah.
So PPCR, that's where PPCR was born.
Gotcha.
To expose the business
For in its
capabilities
entirety, yeah,
to the
capability.
automotive, power sports, marine, and aviation sectors.
Awesome.
And it's really working. We haven't quite got the name out there as widely as what we want yet, but I'm
Yep.
very cautious about trying to run before we can walk.
Yep. Fair enough.
Because
Yeah.
that's where I think people can come unstuck, is if
Yeah.
you try to run without doing your bootlaces up first.
Man, that's awesome. What a great story, and great to hear with regards to getting the word out there. So we're at 183 Manukau Road. This is where we're sitting right now, in the store. Love it. Nice place, and thank you for showing me around. I want to come back to the time in the unit, and you don't need to go into the details. You speak as much or as little as you like about aspects and stuff there with regards to operationally and all that sort of stuff. For you, what lessons have you drawn? Because it's obvious you've taken a whole bunch of lessons away from not only there to get to this point, that persistence, that drive to just keep going. That yes, it's hard, like COVID getting hit. I'm imagining the challenges that you've had. You're then paying a lease on this place when you've been told to stay home, and you can't generate work and income to come in, so you're doing that off your own bat, I'm assuming, out of your own pocket, and all the while, all this stuff is building up. What I guess have you really grabbed or garnered from your time in the unit that's helped galvanize that mindset? Because it sounds very blasé is not the right word. It sounds, and it is to a degree, I guess, matter of fact. But people that are listening to it that haven't been through those experiences that you've experienced, that you've had, the journey that you've been on, the understanding of I wasn't in the zone at this time, but now I am, and this is what I've been doing. How would you package that or talk to your transition, or not transition, but going from the military, from that aspect, operationally? What have you taken from that you feel still helps you today, that just constantly is always, because I have bits and pieces in my head that pop up every day, still from the military career. What are those things that pop up in your head or flash up in your mind maybe that help you through each day of your business and where you're at now, right now?
I think the first one is 1 second is a long time. Don't stop. Don't ever give up. If you go into a mindset where, oh man, I've only got a minute to get there, you're not going to get there. Whereas if you go, oh, I've got a minute, heaps of time, let's go.
Yeah.
And I quite often just do a little exercise. I don't know, I just do it. And I'll be heating something up in the microwave.
Yeah.
And I'll be trying to do something concurrently. And I'll look at the microwave and I'll go, 5 seconds. And I'll go, yeah, I can get that done. And I'll just slow myself down and go, because, there was a saying, slow is fast.
Yeah.
Slow down. Focus on what you're doing. Do it slowly, but do it effectively. And you get it finished, and the beeper will go off in the microwave. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I've taken away, is that never ever stop. No matter how much time you think you haven't got, you've got time. You've always got time, because time is your greatest asset. That's been the biggest thing that I've learned from the military and applied to today.
Yep.
Time is everything. It's not just money. It is everything. Every single day that I get to the end of my day and I look at my to-do list, I go, far out. I didn't get that done. I didn't get that done. Oh my God, I've got to get that done tomorrow. I've got to. So I always set myself overzealous targets.
Yep.
Not stupid targets, but targets that
are going to push you.
I know are going to push me to the limit.
Yeah.
And by doing that and understanding that, I don't be disappointed at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because I know I was never probably going to get that all done. I probably was never going to. Because I don't like getting to the end of the day and going, it's 4 o'clock, I've done everything, let's knock off.
Yeah.
It's like, far out, we've nearly got everything done.
Yeah.
Which is going to set you up for your next phase of the job.
I like how you mention that, because if there's overzealous targets, the way you described it, and then sitting back and going, oh, yeah, okay, I probably wasn't going to get that done anyway, but you're probably a million miles ahead, right, of where you would have been. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah, and I suppose always trying to do things better, quicker, more efficient.
Yeah.
Using that time. So once you understand time, and you appropriate that against the elements of money, effectiveness, and process,
Yeah.
and you get those three married up together, just like the military. Stripping and assembling a weapon is a process.
Yeah.
You only get better at it by the agility and the process and the muscle memory, and applying it and doing it all the time. And it's the same out here in business. It's as you've done something 2 or 3 times, it gets easier. Don't rest on that laurel of it got easier. How can we make it better? How can we make it more efficient?
Yeah.
And I'm always constantly to the point where I think my offsider thinks I'm crazy, because I keep saying to him, is there a better way we can do this? Is there a better way? Because that goes back, and I always think that, especially in the unit, and the infantry was the same, but in the unit especially, everything was a competition.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. Brushing your teeth. I can brush my teeth faster. I can do a 1-finger press, chin up. Can you? Everything was setting an unregistered challenge to each other.
Yeah.
And it was crazy.
It is.
It was crazy. Everything was just so competitive.
But there's also a beauty about it too.
It was a friendly, competitive nature. That like nothing ever happened cruisy.
Yeah.
You didn't go for a cruise run. It was come back and you just thought you'd been through hell. Going,
I thought we were just going for a jog.
Yeah. It was, but that's what drove you.
Yeah.
That's what drove you and kept you going. You just wanted to do a little bit better. And if you come slower, you were devastated. It's far out.
Crushed.
Because it was, and it goes back to that self-discipline thing.
Yeah.
Trying to do it faster, trying better. So those are the things that I've sort of taken from the military and all that sort of stuff, and do it sort of on a daily basis thing. And really, I suppose it's just, in general, it really is that don't stop. Don't give up.
Yeah.
Because although you might go to bed tonight stressing out about something, you'll wake up in the morning and it won't be stressful. You'll have worked a solution out, what it is.
Yeah.
Believe in yourself. I've had moments there where I've questioned my own ability, going far out. Do you really know what you're doing? But I've put myself back to where I came from out of the unit and went, I never thought like that then.
Yeah.
Why am I thinking like that now? I never did that.
100%.
I always, and I relate that back to that grievance of being away from the boys.
Yeah.
Because you always had the boys there that, you didn't want to let them down, and you knew they were never going to let you down.
Yep. And you always had somebody to chase.
Yeah, there was always someone that was faster or better. So you always, it was very rare that there was the exemplary person who was the fastest runner, the fastest, the most press-ups. Yeah. Someone was always a little bit better at something, which was what 100%. Drove you. So I took that lesson. I said, well, you never used to self-doubt yourself before. Why are you doing it now? And that just gets you over that little hurdle. That's enough awesome. To fill that cup of coffee up in the morning. Yeah. To go, let's go to work. Let's get into it.
Work it. Man, I love that. That's I love how there's a comment that I've heard, and it sounds to me this applies 100% to you. You've had this thought in terms of when you're talking about going into and setting up this business. You've thought it, and the saying, I might not be saying 100% right, but it's sort of along the lines, you think it, you speak it, you act, it happens. And for you, from the conversation from one of your previous relationships where we had a conversation, she asked, what are you going to do? It's like, I've always wanted to have a motorbike shop. Like, that thought was obviously there, and you've spoken it, then you've had some support or encouragement, however that's come about, why don't you do it? And then, why don't I do it? Then you've acted, and we have the Outrider, we have the Pukekohe performance, componentry, refinishing?
Yep, that's it.
We're finishing, yeah, definitely. Try and say that quick after you've had a couple, or even while you haven't had any. But it's beautiful, man. It's a great story of what I'm hearing: resilience, of determination, of never giving up, of finding a way. Is there a better way? Is there a more efficient way? Do I need to get other elements? So I like how you've talked about this young fella that's helping you, and you've spoken quite. I haven't met him, but you've spoken quite well of him and the work that he does. And I also want to speak about, because you brought him in, then we're in lockdown. I'm guessing you could have been like other businesses going, hey man, listen, you haven't even started work, because the way it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, he was supposed to start on the Monday or whenever it was, but the week before we went into lockdown. And then we've been in this lockdown for such a long time now, but you've continued to pay him and keep him on and do all that sort of stuff, and he hadn't even stepped foot into the business. Why did you do that? Why did you not choose to say, sorry mate, listen, you're not here, we can't have you, I can't afford to pay you, or whatever?
I think that's purely from my background in the military. Look after your people and they will look after you. And
beautiful.
Yeah, it's simple as that. There's no rocket science around it. That's how I was educated about leadership in the military.
Yeah.
That you just don't leave guys on the lurch like that. He'd agreed to come and work with me. I don't use the term for me.
Yeah.
Because he works with me.
Yeah.
And he's part of the team. He's part of that team. So his decisions and his thoughts and input are very important to me. And he knows that. And even though, this guy he said one thing to me during an informal interview process.
Yeah.
So I ended up, his dad was actually one of my customers.
Oh, wow.
And I was standing there one day going, yeah, I'm getting really snowed under. I can't get on top of everything. I'm looking for somebody if you know somebody.
Yeah, right.
And he said, I think you need to talk to my young fella. So I said, well, send him in. How old is he? He's 19. Because I'd always been looking for this unicorn, semi-retired guy who just wanted to work 20 hours a week. He just wanted to come and have a chat and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Just couldn't find that person. Couldn't find that person. They're not out there.
Yeah.
So I bit the bullet and went, well, if I keep doing the same thing but getting the same results, I've got to change something. So I thought, right, let's go for a young guy. So this young fella came in. And I've always trusted my intuition, my gut, and I got an immediate I generated an immediate rapport with him, and he sort of reminded me not of myself, but of the people that we've been in the military with. Yeah, he's got a lot of potential. Yeah. He's still, he's got a lot of potential.
Awesome.
But he said one thing to me after we had chatted for about 3 hours. I said, okay, so if I am to offer you a position here with us, what sort of lead time? Because I needed someone last week. You know, what sort of lead time do you need to give your current employer?
Yeah.
And he said, and this is what hooked me. He said, I only need to give him 2 weeks, but I'd like to give him 4 so I don't leave him on the lurch.
Wow.
That to me was
That's awesome.
That was a sinker for me. That was the
19-year-old.
Yeah, I thought that's a loyal, well thought person.
Speaks a lot.
And I thought, it speaks volumes for his character. And yeah, he's been great. He's been a real godsend to the business.
Beautiful, man. Far out. That's so cool. That's awesome to hear. And the business now, what's the plans with the current shape of the business at the moment? What are your intentions and plans with it?
To get 2 more of him and I can retire. Oh look, I want to get to the business to be self-sustaining.
Yeah.
And I've got an idea in my head where I want the growth point to be.
Yeah.
And I'll be satisfied with that. And I think what's going to happen then is I'm going to go, I've done it.
Yeah.
I've done
What's
it.
next?
What's next? Where to next?
Yeah.
Because I'm not a young man anymore, but I'm not an old man either.
Yeah.
There's still plenty of guts and kick left in there.
Yeah.
So I know there's still things that I want to do. And I suppose I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And unfortunately with COVID, none of us can travel abroad.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that I'm not still relying on income from travelling abroad.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I wouldn't see my family forever and ever because
Yeah, you'd be over there.
Yeah, I've got 2 young kids and I'm very fortunate that I live in the same town.
Yeah.
And I get pretty good access to them. And that was one of the big decisions I made to do this as well.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine now being stuck in quarantine somewhere on the other side of the world for weeks at a time just to try and get home.
Yeah.
It would be horrible.
I
Terrible.
reckon. What is some of your advice that you would give? And I'll just sort of give you some context around this. So I've spoken with, I'm not going to mention his name on here. I'm hoping to get him on the podcast. He hasn't agreed to it yet, but he's a former member of the NZ unit before our time stuff there, on selection and psych, I should say, and he had already gone. He was on the circuit over at the time. You might have bumped into him. I'll probably mention his name to you off here. But he's, in my mind, he's still only young. He's 53. So he's 10 years older than me, but he's still young. But he's been doing this private sector stuff, consultancy. He's done a lot of bodyguarding stuff. He's not sort of in that space now, but he's doing it. He's been doing it for more than 20 years. And he's very, very good at it. But the whole landscape has changed. I was speaking with him on the phone a couple of nights ago, and he spoke about you need degrees now. Like, these organizations are after people with degrees. And I was like, but you've got 20 plus years, nearly 30 years. He goes, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, they're after degrees. So he's warned out a couple of the guys, before you come back, if you think you're going to slot back into doing this type of work, you need to have something. For him, though, the sad part for me, and I spoke with him about it, was that his words to me were, I can't do anything else. Like, this is all I know. That I can't do anything else. I've been doing this for so long. It's too, and his words, which really sort of got me here and here, was that I've been doing this that long, I can't change and do anything else out now. Like, I've got my wife, I've got my children, I need to earn some crust. And he went for long periods of time last year. He got one paycheck, I think, in March, and then he didn't get the next one till December. So what would you say, what sort of advice would you give to people? And this isn't just for him, but for anybody that may be in a rut. So one of our communications that we got from a guy by the name of Shane, who's been following along, he's not a ex-member of the Army, but he's an ex-1st Battalion member. From 2011 to 2016, he served operationally and stuff with 1st Battalion, but he says he's been in a rut. He's currently a police officer at the moment. And he said after listening to Bill's conversation and some of his stuff that he shared, it's just really given him a lift. He's like, man, I've been self-limiting myself. And I thought of Mike when I read his words, this guy Shane's words. And I think it would be really helpful for people to hear your take on, because you've spoken about it in a number of different ways, in a lot of similar ways. But I wonder if you wouldn't mind just taking a moment to directly sort of address to people that may be listening. They don't need to be ex-SF. They don't even need to be ex-Army. We've got a whole bunch of civvies that have contacted us as well. What would be some of your advice, in addition to the great advice and information that you've given already and perspectives, to try to help these people sort of shift their mindset to have self-belief, or whatever that might be? What would you say to them if you had that opportunity?
I suppose it links back to that 1 second thing. 1 second is a long time. For me, it's all about diversity and capability. So I've set this business up. It's all about capability. I've got capabilities out there in that workshop I'll probably never ever use. But if somebody ever walks in one day and says, can you? I'm going, yep. And that's what it's all about. So similar to the military. Yeah. It's all about capability. Can you do it if you're called upon to do it? Yeah. Whether it's a latent capability, just sitting there not doing a lot, and every now and then you pull it out and you dust it off and you do it, put it back.
I'm a bit rusty with that.
Yeah, it's a bit rusty. But that capability provides you with diversity. And it's all about diversity. And it's a horrible, it's not nice to hear you say that people feel they can't do anything else, because you can do whatever you want. You can do anything. You really can. All you've got to do is flick that switch and wake up in the morning and put your jocks and socks on and crack it, and just start by the smallest step of investigating. Oh man, what do I have to do? Awesome. Oh, is that all? You know, like, is that it? Oh, I didn't know. Does that all I have to do?
Mm.
And never ever limit yourself to, I've only done that before.
Mm.
I've never owned it. Like, I've been involved in businesses, but I never owned my own business.
Yeah.
I've never poured this ridiculous amounts of money into this is the biggest risk I've taken in my life.
Mm.
Far bigger than any other risk. So diversity, capability. 1 second is a long time, and
You can do
whether
whatever.
you get formal
Yep.
qualifications and recognitions of study,
Mm.
or you just watch YouTube on learning how to do stuff, learn new things. Just learn something new, because you just don't know. I mean, I've put the word out there. Who knows how to do this?
Yeah.
And it's pretty rare you get someone to come back and go, yeah, I can do it. And that's probably a lesson that I've taken directly away from the unit. Is you've got some real strange people in there, you know, like you've got all sorts. It's like a lolly scramble of people.
Yeah.
You've got electrical mechanical engineers, you've got cooks, drivers, you've got blooming sailors.
Yeah, sailors. Yeah.
You've got all these people. They've all got the one common denominator, and that's they want to be there and embrace and learn. But when you're in a tricky situation, you know, numerous times, you know, and I got called out a couple of times. You know, a wagon would break down and I'd look at it and go, oh, nah, it's Tucker.
Yeah.
And the boys would go, no, we can
fix it. Yeah, next minute it's like...
I'm going far out because those guys have got those skills to do it. So, and I took that lesson and applied it to my everyday life in this business. And so, diversity, capability, 1 second's a long time and never stop learning.
Awesome.
It doesn't matter. I mean, yes, it's great to have the degrees and all that sort of stuff, but just do some, I call it study. I dedicate a couple of hours every week to just jump onto YouTube and look at the way guys are doing different things. What's common in the new ways of doing this stuff? Even powder coating techniques, powder coating machinery. There's always so much more to learn. Yeah. Like I've got stuff out there I've never ever done before. I'd never powder coated anything before. Wow. I'd never painted anything before. I'd never isotropic super finish. I don't even know what it was before. I've never didn't know vapor blasting. What it was. Done all of these things, but I've had to teach myself, and it's as you said before. It's just that tenacity to say, you know, I've just taken the attitude. If a human built that, then a human can fix it or change it or make it do something else. Man. And it's. You know, it's just, I think that's my word to say to somebody. If you're thinking of looking at a different career, don't hesitate. Do it because time runs out. So I've said 1 second is a long time, but those 1 seconds go by quite quick. If you don't execute, do something. Act on it. If you lie there at night and something's keeping you awake, I want to jump out of an airplane. I want to go parachuting. Do it. Yeah. Just go and do it. Find out. Go online and say, parachuting. Yeah. Oh, Mercer. They do it at Mercer. They do tandems there. Or, I know someone who used to do that. Just investigate it and do it.
Beautiful, man. Such good advice. I really appreciate that. I like the capability, the diversity, the 1 second's a long time, that seek to try to learn something new, whether that's each day or each week, as you spoke about. And just... I love how you mentioned that curiosity, just to investigate, just to have a look. Oh, is that all I need to do? Man, those are such great points. And for me, that sort of ties in and wraps all of this sort of stuff together around the who dares wins mindset, because you're not gonna. And I like how Bill sort of framed it. He says it's who dares wins, and that can apply to anybody. So not just operators like yourself that have served in those units, that have gone on to do and achieve amazing things and do the stuff that you've done, but to also bring that back to reality, and that it's been a struggle to get to where you are now. There's still a heck of a lot of work to do. You're coming down to that bottom point of that ski slope where you're about to head up and launch. And along the way, seems to me you've just figured things out by turning up each day, by rolling up your sleeves, putting on your socks and jocks and just going, I'm going to work today and I'm going to figure this out, whatever that is, whatever I need to do. So great advice, Mids. I really appreciate And that's why I was so excited to have you and to spend some time with you to hear your thoughts, because I know people are just going to really resonate and connect with the messages that you've shared. The undertones of the messages, yes, we've spoken a fair bit about what was selection like and leading up to and cycle and some of the bits and pieces around operationally. There's probably just a couple of other points, only if it's okay with you, and I've intentionally left them towards the end because it's easier to edit it out if we need to. But would you mind speaking about, because you've touched on it, and I don't think people really understand. Like, I was lucky enough, my wife has come onto the podcast and she's given her side, of how, I guess she didn't say how selfish I was, but as I listened to it and as I've reflected on it, I've got, man, I really just focused on me, what I wanted. This is what I want to do. That I want to be with the boys. Like, I want to do this job. I don't want to let them down, this and that and the other. But it's really eye-opening for me in a lot of ways. She spoke about and highlighted some of my weaknesses and faults, which I'm really grateful for, in terms of if people weren't at a certain level or standard of what I expected or where I thought they should be, I would just either label them as useless, or I'd say, well, you fellas either lift your game or I'm out of here. And if they didn't, I'd be like, see you later. And I'd leave. And I realized that that's, for me anyway, that's not a good space. That's not who I want to be, and that's not how I want to be remembered, and those sorts of things. So I've really been taking on her advice, and I've been pleased that she's brought that up about me. But it's interesting to hear you spoke about needing to do my own washing, do my own cooking, do my own planning, do this, do that, with the business on top of all of that. If we go back to your relationship, that the first relationship whilst you were serving, did you feel anything was in relation to work? Did you feel like, and you don't need to answer this, so I've left it near the end, do you feel work played a role in terms of the fallout of your first relationship?
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned selfishness, and I think that is a negative byproduct of the roles and the jobs that we were doing, because to be in that headspace, you had to have an element of selfishness.
Yeah.
And we were all a lot younger back then as well. So I think there was it was problematic to let that selfishness not be understood by ourselves because of that level of immaturity. Yeah. So I think it probably did, because there was a period there where I was being deployed quite regularly.
Yeah.
And call it what you will, call it lucky, call it fortunate, call it whatever, but I was always keen and willing to do that, to go. And, a couple of those jobs were a week, 2 weeks long, but we already, there was one deployment, I was already away on a team exercise. And they literally came out and grabbed me and said, you're going away tomorrow.
Yeah.
You need to go
get
and
your
grab
stuff.
Your gear. And I said, well, shit, okay, how long am I away for? And he goes, well, at this stage, it's a 5 or 6 day deployment.
At this stage,
Could change. I said, okay. So go back and do that. And you didn't even give a thought to your family situation. And that, looking back, must have been tough. Yeah. Because I put myself in that shoes. It must have been hard for not just mine and your partners at the time, but for all of the families. Yeah. To just not really understand, when's the next time they're going to go? When are they going to be back? Where are they?
You've just come back, now you're going again.
Again. Don't you get a break?
Yeah.
And I think part of that was their concern about us as individuals to get a rest. And then part of it was like going, what have I let myself in for here? Yeah. By getting into this, or making that decision to do this. Yeah. So I think selfishness may have had quite a heavy influence on the emotional separation. Yeah. Because it got easier as time went on.
It does, eh? Yeah.
As my time in the unit went on, it became so
normal,
entrenched, so normal that and because my partner never pushed back and said, I've had a guts full of this sort of thing. Very understanding woman.
She's hurting.
I just made the assumption that
Yeah,
be
she
fine.
must be all right.
Must be all good. But I think we sort of just, just on a number of different levels, just drifted apart till it got to that point where it was like, things went astray, sort of, and they never, it didn't sustain itself.
Yeah.
And, I stayed in the unit for another 12, 18 months
After that? Yeah.
And I won't use the term it was refreshing, but I certainly felt an element of pressure off.
Yeah.
That I
could
didn't
imagine.
have to feel guilty about my work and my job, and it was tough on the families on all levels. I mean, but because I always had the understanding or the belief that they had it easier than us because we had to go and deploy away, and they got to stay at home. And they got to go to the movies and the shops, and all, but I had to go and do all this and live in these terrible places. You guys have got it all. I'd swap any day. I'll be a house husband tomorrow.
Yeah, but really, no.
Really, it's like, no, it's not. It's because I never experienced that until later on in life when my partner went away and I was at home by myself going, this sucks. This sucks to get saved. It's boring. It's like, no, what am I going to do? You can only mow the lawn so many times and stuff.
When's she going to call?
Exactly.
No missed calls, Dad.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it's hard for both in a relationship. Some make it, some don't. Yeah. More don't, unfortunately.
100%.
And I think the selfishness element has a little bit to play in there.
Yeah.
That you become very self-absorbed in your own career, and because you work hard to get there. Yeah. It's not something that you just wrote a letter to the editor.
Yeah, it's not just handed to you, eh? Yeah.
No, you worked hard to be there.
Yeah.
You want to prove the people that have selected you that you can deploy to drop the hat. You can do that. You can willingly do it. I'm so glad you brought that up and shared that because, I agree 100% with the things that you're sharing. It is hard. Also, at the same time, we're acknowledging this here, and by inviting some of the spouses to come on, those that want to. We want to hear their story too, because we know that as much as it affects operators operationally, we know it affects the home front. But it's always nice and refreshing to hear that perspective, and I really grateful that you've shared those viewpoints. What would be your advice with the experience that you have now, being able to look back? What advice would you give to the next generation of those warriors coming through into units like the SAS? Communication, I think, is the big one. Actually understanding and listening to your partner and encouraging them to actually open up to you. Yeah. Because you'll ask them, and they'll just say the same as good. Yeah. One of the common things I found about a lot of the partners, they were all very similar, and they're all very strong. Very strong women, all of them, in their own right. Very strong, powerful, independent, we can do anything type woman. Yeah. Which, funnily enough, was the same as their husbands and boyfriends. So really, I suppose my advice is to really make sure you stay on track with what your partner is thinking and feeling, and don't be so pig-headed to just take on every job that comes up, because it is tempting. Yeah. You feel special. You feel special within a special group of people when you're asked as an individual to go and do a job. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And there's a battle every time the list comes up or a deployment. There's always that, I want to be on that list. Yeah. It's that competitive nature that you have, and you want to be on the list. You'll do anything to be on the list. And it's disappointing if you're not on the list, or you get on the list and then you get withdrawn off the list. Yeah. It's like, why? Whatever. Yeah. So my advice would be to just make sure that you actually communicate, because one day the dream comes to an end, and when you wake up from that dream and you find yourself alone, it's too late. It can be too late. So you've got to make sure that you just it's a two-way street, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
I am not qualified to
Neither
talk
am
about. For relationships. I'm far from qualified to talk about them because, I've been through the blooming things, and I've had to really stop now and learn and go, okay, I've done these things. They can't all be wrong. What have I been doing that has been the catalyst to do all these things? And it goes probably back to that little bit of selfishness, a little bit of not wanting to communicate, locking up, and not communicating effectively. All of the normal things we all know about.
Yeah.
But when you actually experience them and you have to apply those rules, it's different. It's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
Again, the advice would be communication and listening. And look, honestly, if as a couple you want to make it work, don't be shy to put your hand up and go and talk to people about it. Because sometimes that third party listening and hearing what's going on can be,
just what you need, eh?
Just what you need to get through it.
Man, thanks, Mitz. That's awesome. It's so refreshing for me and for me to hear. But also, as you speak about, talking about you're not far from qualified, for me as an individual, I absolutely think that you are, just because of the experience that you have with that. People may argue or say whatever they want to say, but the fact that you've been so raw and open and honest about it, it's coming from a good place to help that next. There's going to be other people that are going to come through, whether they hear this podcast or not. They're probably going to have a similar mindset to those of us that have been there. They're going to be focused. They're going to be stubborn. They're going to be somewhat selfish because their desire is to not let their teammates down. Their desire is to strive for excellence, like Bill mentioned and what you've mentioned as well, to strive to be there, do the things that they need to do. I want to be on the list. I want to go away and do those jobs. And so if the audience and those that are thinking about joining this unit, I hope you've been listening and taking away as much as you can from what Mitz has been sharing, that you'll play this back, that you've got notes down, that you do communicate, because it's not easy, particularly for those that are still serving in the unit now. And those that aren't, because of certain operational security reasons, we don't communicate with our partners about what's happening.
You're conditioned that way.
Yeah, right.
You're conditioned.
Yeah.
You're actually physically conditioned that you don't talk about it.
Yeah.
For a very good reason. So you've got to negotiate that minefield. You've got to work your way through it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I was guilty of. No, I can't talk about it.
Yeah. So I'm not going to talk about
I'm not
anything.
going.
Yeah.
I was going to have another beer. What else would you want to know? But I mean, if I could just add one thing.
Please.
One of the hardest experiences I had in the unit was deployed overseas.
Yeah.
And we'd managed to hook into a line that got us back to New Zealand on the phone. And you basically had a schedule, and you had like half an hour to communicate with your family.
Oh man!
It was, and you used to climb up this tower, and it was hot and dusty, and you could see all the planes and stuff flying around and helicopters. It was noisy and dusty, and there was no guarantee there was going to be a line connected, because I think from memory we had to go from Afghanistan to Hawaii to there
to
down
bounce
to there,
there,
to bounce it all through the line. So there's about a half-hour delay and everything. Hello. Wait. Oh yeah, what? But I remember that I'd been on these deployments before, but it was a short deployment relatively. This was the longest one that went away.
Yeah.
So my daughter at the time, she was only, I don't even know if she was 2. And I remember my wife, she'd go, "Hey mate, do you want to talk?" And I'd hear her in the background, "Nah." And I'll be trying to entice her to the phone.
Yeah.
"Do you want to talk to Daddy?" "Nah." And I was going,
What the?
But in her mind, "No, I'm angry at you because you said you were only going to go away and you'd be coming home." So another thing too, going on to advice is
great
don't think your kids are that silly and
that they don't know.
Don't understand that you're going to be away. Even though they don't understand time and space, they're not silly. and you need to be quite transparent with them that, hey, I'm going away for a while. It's going to be quite a long time, but I'll call you and write your letters as much as I can.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I won't say but we made the decision to just say to the kids, I'm going away, and not really telling them because of that ethos that you don't tell your partners, you don't tell people where you are, what you're doing, because of operational security for very good reason. Yeah. But yeah, you've got to be quite transparent with those kids because they work it out real quick. And then when I got back, she ignored me for like 2 days. Stubborn.
Got her dad's traits.
Yeah, she's got that. Yeah, well, her mum's quite stubborn as well. So she was doomed from the start. But yeah, I mean, you know, she probably won't remember that. But yeah, it was quite hard to hear her in the background going, no, I don't want to talk to him.
Yeah, I bet, man. Oh, thank you for sharing that too, Mids. It's some beautiful stuff, some very private, personal, but I know beneficial stuff for our audience and stuff that are going to hear. I didn't ask you what has been the best thing. So you've shared that was one of the toughest things, which I can understand. What's one of, or what's a handful of the best things, your best takeaways of your time in the unit?
Oh God, honestly, it all comes back to the guys.
Yeah,
it does. It all comes back to the guys. Love them all to death. They just are such a bunch of crazy misfits.
Misfits, yeah.
Every single one of them in their own right has got their own unique character, you know, and they're all got their own strengths and their own weaknesses, but no one's too embarrassed or shy to go, oh, I don't really know how to, I'm not really good at that. You know, guys are quite open. So the guys and the team is by far the most memorable thing I take away from the unit.
Beautiful.
But yeah, I think the skills that if you embrace them and interpret them the right way and take them away with you and put them in the back of your mind, they will come back one day and help you in the situation. Yeah, that by far is the best thing. There's just so many hard case things and funny things that happened. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it all boils down to the guys.
The guys, eh?
Because the most stupidest things will happen underwater, or the most stupidest things will happen, and you just go, oh mate, how do we get away with that? It's just
awesome. Yeah. Beautiful, man. Thank you so much, Mids. I appreciate the time that I've had with you. Great insights, great perspective. Wonderful, man. Good to see you again, and thank you for giving of your time, my brother.
No, good to see you too. Good to connect again, Joe. Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity, because you know, I don't think you ever feel the desire to help. If they can help in any way, mate, that's awesome.
Awesome, man. Thank you. And as always, we finish off who dares wins. Thank you, brother.
Stuff, bro.